Welcome to another episode of This Korean Life, number 103, featuring Dennis Feeheley. Dennis has traveled to 55 countries, studied and played rugby at Oxford University. He hitchhiked across the Sahara Desert. He's the CEO of an international trade company, legislative correspondent for U.S. Congress, lecturer at a maximum security prison in the U.S., and one of the few Americans to travel behind the Iron Curtain. Ricky Nelson is about to catch a full Nelson from Busan's one and only traveling man. Welcome to our podcast. Thanks to Danny Kessler for the introduction.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think you're more than... he was worried he wasn't interesting enough or didn't have enough stories to come on. I think we're going to be okay. I hope you have enough time to share them all with us.
Oh, sure I do.
Awesome.
Yep.
Starting off, I think, why don't you give us a little background how you ended up in Busan, of all places?
Well, it was kind of by a little bit by chance. I had lived in England for study, for university, did a lot of traveling for 3 years during my school days. Then I moved back to America, to George Washington University, graduated there, and then worked on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. for a few years.
Very cool.
Then I started a business, international trade company, with just a little money, but we eventually raised over $1 million in private capital and got kind of successful at that. And then when that business was coming to a close, I wanted to live overseas again.
Sure.
I'd been to Asia, but I'd never lived in Asia, so I wanted to come to Asia.
Yep.
And just kind of by chance, a guy I knew had taught in Korea. And he had lived in Korea for a few years and talked about it's a great place to stay. You just try it. So I came to Korea. I sold my motorcycle, my car, closed my apartment, and just came to Seoul just one day and then ended up staying here for a long time.
What year was this?
Wow, that's a long time ago. Maybe 97, 98.
Okay.
When you came here?
When I first came, yeah.
Oh, you were here a long time
I left,
ago.
but I originally came at that time.
Cool.
Wow.
Very
that would have been the real Wild West.
Yeah, it was. Quite a bit different than nowadays.
Were you in Busan at that
Well, I
point?
was in Seoul for 1 year, worked hard, saved a lot of money. Then I took off and just went traveling through Asia for like 120 days, about 10 countries.
That's hilarious. That's so many
spent all my
people.
money.
So many people follow that almost exact same path. A friend told me about Korea. I came here, saved
in a
money for a
lark.
year, and started traveling around. That's awesome.
You were here for how long the first time?
Well, I was here for a lot of years, 15 years.
Oh, wow. So you
12
saved
years.
money, went traveling, came back?
Well, I just traveled for like 120 days,
Okay.
so just
And
came
then-
back around the money. So I came back to Busan. Also, kind of by chance, a Korean guy knew we came down to Busan for a weekend, and
I think I'll
for 10
stay.
years.
and I got a job, and ended up staying in the.
Sure. That's awesome.
And then, again, recently you left to go back to the States? And come
Yeah,
back?
after I published my book, shortly after I published my book, I returned to the States for maybe 4 or 5 years. So I was back home. I bought a house back there, and then after that, I returned back to Korea again to Busan and started working in Busan again. Second time.
Around what year did you move home?
Maybe 2012, maybe.
And what was the impetus for that?
Just to promote my book. I published the book, so I want to go back and promote it.
Shit, buying a house is a big commitment for promoting a book.
Well, yeah.
But it was after 2000.
I gotta buy a house. Why? I gotta promote my book.
We bought it at a really good time. We got lucky with the market because it was during the basically market collapse.
Yeah, sure.
And every house we looked at 34 houses, 35 houses, my wife and I, and almost all of them were had been foreclosed.
Foreclosures.
And we just picked one house we really liked. It was just being developed and being repaired, and we knew the guy really didn't have the money to finish it. Right. So I mean, he had a price for the house. I offered about 50% of what he was asking, and he said no. Right. And I just walked away. I came back to Korea, went back to work, didn't contact him for like 6 or 9 months because I knew he wasn't going to sell it.
Yeah.
There were so many houses for foreclosed at that time. And then I recontacted him out of the blue maybe 9 months later and gave him just a little bit higher offer, and he jumped right on it, took it.
Beautiful. Wow.
So we got the house at a really
Jackpot.
low price.
Cool.
And,
good.
We did a lot of developing, renovating. My wife's really good with interior design, so.
Nice. Oh, cool.
Then you just couldn't stay away from Korea too long, or what?
Yeah, it was just, I finished most of the promotions for the book and just came back to Korea.
Nice.
Actually, too, my wife got sick. And so we had to come back. Actually, we didn't have to move back. We had to come back for her care. After we came back, then I just stayed on.
I think that's another reason why, well, maybe a lot of Americans stay as well. The healthcare system here is probably a lot of...
I was very sick myself 2 years ago.
Okay, Danny mentioned that, but that didn't come up in your thing.
I was in the hospital for 6 months.
Yeah.
Wow. I had 15 chemo treatments. I had 6 targeted chemo. I had 3 complete blood transfusions.
Brain...
I had tumors on both sides of the brain.
Yeah.
I didn't know this until recently. My wife finally told me, but when I first went in the hospital, I went to one hospital. They said they couldn't do anything for me. I stayed there like a week. They took me by ambulance to another hospital, a specialist, and the specialist did all these testing, and they said, we can't do anything. He's got about 2 or 3 weeks. You should just take him home. Told my wife, take him home and keep him rested and for his final days. And my wife said, well, no, you got to do something. And they said, well, that with the way the tumors were, if they did an operation, it would probably kill me. If it didn't kill me, the chances of recovery are so small. So they refused to do it.
No way.
But my wife really saved my life. She's just adamant, you must do this. You must. If there's a 5% chance, do the operation.
Sure.
And then they said we need the money, and the money was just astronomical. So we had that house, which really saved us.
Sweet.
Because we could show that house as we own this house, we can sell this house, And then they continued, and then it was just a really slow, long process. I had 3 bone marrow transplants, the most painful thing I've experienced. I spent like 26 days in a bioclean room, which I had to...
In a what?
It's a bioclean room, which is just...
So just completely sealed?
Completely sealed.
Like where they would have put corona patients maybe early?
Way worse than corona patients.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where? Early on corona patients, where you're in a sealed room.
It was just... And I had to qualify to get in there because I had to meet all these standards, my liver function, my heart function, the chemo treatments. I had to get all these key points before I could qualify to go there. And when I first went in the hospital, there were 6 guys in my ward, the area I was in. By the time, this is after 5-6 months, I finally qualified for the bioclean room. There was one other guy, a real nice guy. He made it to that point. And then we both went in the same time, got released, and he passed away 2 weeks later.
Wow.
Every guy in my room, there were 6 guys, have all passed.
Oh, wow.
Every one of them over a period of time. But I had really good care of the Korean system. I mean, it was just...
What hospital were you at?
I was at PNU. PNU Hospital.
The one in...
Busan?
No, but...
Near Napadong.
Okay.
Yeah, near Napadong. It's they're specialists, I guess, with brain.
Sure.
Brain. So they did a great job, though. They were really.
But
nobody expected me to survive.
Sure. What a great time to not understand or speak Korean. What a great thing to not hear from a doctor.
That's kind of true.
Yeah.
Because I was out of it for like a good 5 weeks. I couldn't sit up. I couldn't stand. I couldn't really talk. I didn't recognize my wife. I kept calling her Nancy. I didn't know where I lived. And they always asked me,
it's a great name.
Where do you live? That's your wife's name. I don't know. And then finally, after 5 weeks, when they did a targeted chemo treatment, my wife said that's the first time I showed any kind of change. I started recognizing a little bit.
Yeah. What were your symptoms before? Like, what made you check originally?
Well, I didn't really know what to go in. One thing I recall before I got sick was my eyesight. So I started seeing little black spots in my eyesight, but I didn't feel that different. But some of my friends told me I was different. I didn't know this until way after, that I was acting different, that I didn't understand some things. And what happened is I was in my office doing some work, and they have video of me going into the office, and I left the office with all my students' papers, like a big stack of papers, and I disappeared. And nobody could find me for like 3 days, 3 nights. So my wife had just gone back to America the day before, and she gets a call, your husband's missing him, we can't find him, the police are looking for him. The university sent people to my apartment. They broke the door down. They thought I might be unconscious in the apartments.
Sure.
I wasn't there. And then finally I turned up.
A Hollywood movie.
Yeah, it was.
Holy man.
That was just at Paradise Casino. I was hot in the craps table.
So I had to run it out.
Was it where did they end up
They
finding
found me near...
Texas Street.
actually not that far, Busan Station area.
Oh, okay.
And they don't know how I got there.
Yeah,
I don't know how I got there. I have no memory of anything.
Wild.
But they told me what it was. I was in a little convenience store. I was trying to eat some of the donuts. They said there was this very well dressed but kind of dirty, polite foreigner trying to steal some donuts.
Yeah.
So they called the police. The police came,
Yeah.
and they talked to me. And they found out my name was in the system as being missing,
Oh.
and they took me to the hospital.
Handing out student papers at the 7-Eleven.
Interesting.
So as but I have about 6 weeks. I have no memory of anything.
Wild.
Completely blacked out.
So you went from leaving your office to being diagnosed with 2 brain tumors that they said are inoperable.
Inoperable. Can't do
And-
anything. Just take him home.
Wow.
And then my wife convinced them to do
So
the
she must have
operation.
flew back right away then?
Oh, she flew back right away. Yeah.
No.
As soon as she found out I was missing, she
What-
got me diagnosed.
Thank God for
What
Nancy.
is the...
Yeah, she was wonderful. My wife was wonderful.
Absolutely.
What is... what's the hesitation... Like, isn't that the doctor's job to provide you with the options? And why do you have to be so adamant? I'm not asking... I mean, in Korea, I think you have to be. But even in Canada, I think you have to be now. If you don't say it really, really hurts or it's really bad, take a look. They're like, you'll be okay, you'll be okay, you'll be okay.
I think it's kind of true.
You're not okay.
My wife is always telling me, Dennis, tell me you're sick. Tell me you feel bad. And
Yeah.
I have the mentality from my traveling days, you never complain.
Right.
From playing rugby, I played rugby for 2 years at Oxford. You never
Yeah,
complain.
sure.
So I'm hurt. I don't talk about being hurt. And my wife would tell me the doctors come around every morning about 6 in the morning. My main doctor, 3 or 4 other doctors and the nurses. And not just me, but all the different patients and giving you updates for the day. And they'd always ask me, do you have any questions?
No, I'm good.
No. How you doing? Good. Good. Okay.
And finally the doctor got angry. "You don't have any
What's for
questions?"
lunch?
And I didn't know what happened to me until like weeks later. I never knew how sick I was.
Wild.
Which is kind of good in a way.
Absolutely.
I never felt any stress. I just had this mentality, okay, I got an MRI, or today I got a blood transfusion. I got to do the best thing I can for that process, that treatment today. Just get through today.
I always wonder too, like similar to your situation, people who get diagnosed very late stages, and then the doctors like they're kind of fine until then, and then the doctor goes, "Oh my God, you got stage 4 cancer," and then they just go.
Yeah.
And I wonder how much of the mental
I think it's
side of that
pretty big.
plays into it.
Pretty big.
100%.
They might have went another 6 months or something, but
No, I think it's very
the
true.
doctor says, you got stage 4. Oh, suddenly it pounds
feel
it.
it. I just never allowed myself to do that.
Yeah.
So you were 6 months in the hospital?
Yeah, 6 months. They let me out one time, I think, for about 2 days, 2 nights. Otherwise, I was in there every day.
Wow.
These poor nurses, they did a really nice job. They come in the morning to stick me for my IVs, my shots, and they couldn't find the vein.
Uh-oh.
My pulse was so low, I didn't realize. But they'd try one. Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis. They do the other arm. One, oh. So they'd stick me like 4 or 5 times to get one transfusion going.
Wow.
And they felt so bad about it, but they were really, really, really good care that I got here.
So what are some of your main memories or takeaways from that experience? I mean, was it just all painful and bleak and dark, or is it...
No, like kind of what you said, is just attitude, I think, made a big difference. I also believe in the power of prayer. I know a lot of people have prayed for me. I believe in that power. And then also just my attitude was just, I'm going to get through this. I don't really want to know how bad I am. I don't want to know how sick I am.
Sure. Yeah.
And the first time I even knew it was possibly fatal was after I was in the hospital about 3 months. And the doctor started talking about, we're going to put you in this program to try to get you into the BioClean room.
Yeah.
I said, what's the BioClean room? Why do I need to go there? And he said, well, increase your survival.
Oh, that's a hard word.
That's the first time I ever thought about what I have could kill me.
Yeah.
I just never considered that
Sure.
up until that point. But even then, I just kind of put that on my mind. Just focused on today. What's today?
And what was the final diagnosis? Like what?
Well, I have cancer, and they did the operation on the brain and was successful, but it's a long recovery. My first achievement was in my bed in the room with the 6 other guys. There's a little bathroom in the corner. Getting from my bed to the bathroom without falling down was my biggest achievement. That took me like 4 weeks, 5 weeks
Oh, wow.
to be able to get out of my bed, stand up without falling, and walk 5 meters to the bathroom. But then I'd get in the bathroom and I couldn't get out.
You didn't know what to do?
No, I'd sit down.
Oh.
And I didn't have enough strength to stand up. Literally, I'd be in there for 20, 30 minutes just...
It's from the chemo?
Yeah, chemo just, really
drains it, yeah?
drains you. And then also I wasn't doing an exercise. I couldn't get out of bed for months.
Yeah.
First I started walking down the hallway after I got to the bathroom, and I'd walk a little ways, a little further, and just a long process.
Yeah, no doubt. Wow. Were you, did you believe in the power of prayer before?
I was raised Catholic, went to, Catholic school, and I was an altar boy and all that when I was young.
Cool.
I wasn't like an active person, But just, I was kind of always believing from my traveling days, I have all these obstacles, you got to get through this.
Sure.
And my brother's traveled a lot too. He's been to like 70 countries. And our attitude was just, you do what you got to do. You have an obstacle, something comes up, okay, you make the best decision you can at the time.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not a perfect decision, and then you do it. You don't whine about it, don't complain about it, just do it. You do what you got to do.
I think you'd fit in over here. I think you'd fit in over here in Wilson.
It's funny until you encounter some of those desperate maybe situations or what seem to be desperate or scary situations. All of a sudden, I don't care. Oh, please, somebody listen, somebody watch, somebody help me.
I always wonder about the hardcore atheists on their deathbed, if they're, in the last minutes, are they like, I knew it all along. Who knows? But anyway, so your travel started back in 77 when you were in school, correct?
Yeah, basically, my first world trip was when I was 16 in high school. My brother and I, for the summer, we took like 2 months. My parents let us drive across America from Michigan to California, down to Mexico, back up to California, back to Michigan. I was on the road for like 2 months on my own with my brother. And that kind of lit the fire that I wanted to travel.
Yeah. So
when I finished high school, when I was 18, I found this program to go overseas and study in England. And my plan was to go 1 year, do some traveling, but I ended up going 3 years, did a lot of traveling, then came back.
So when you went at 15, 16, was that like dine and dashing at restaurants, or what? What was funding that trip?
Well, my own money. And actually, I traveled to over 30 countries before I was 21 years old. All over the world, Africa, Middle East, Europe, and I paid for every dime myself.
Awesome.
My parents paid for my tuition. I had really wonderful parents, but everything I did for travel-wise, I paid for it.
Awesome.
And basically, after high school, when I went to university, there was one restaurant in my hometown where I grew up. I worked there in high school. I'd go to university, go to Oxford. I also went to Harlexton, study. Semester would finish, I'd just take off somewhere and travel. I traveled really cheaply. Really cheaply. And then I'd run out of money. I'd fly back home to Michigan. I could fly standby at that time. Thank God for Sir Freddie Laker. I started standby flights. I could fly $115 across the Atlantic. Awesome. I'd get home, and I just went to work at that restaurant. And they let me work as many hours as I wanted to. I'd be in America maybe 22 days. I worked 70, 80 hours every week, save my money, then go back to school, study, travel, work, study, travel.
Fantastic.
So
I try to encourage my uni students to get on board with this kind of program, because that's kind of what mine was like. And they just don't get it.
I understand.
Too attached to the phones. I'm like, there's such a big world out there to explore.
Yeah,
and
that's very
once
true.
you go once and get that travel bug and feel that independence, and you'll be proud of yourself for going and getting out of your parents' house, and I guarantee you won't want to stop. Most people, I'm not saying all backpacking or budget traveling, but you'll figure out what works for you. And you'll meet some people, and you might have some scary or bad experiences, but you understand that it's different than the mundane daily life that you're used to. And next vacation, you're going to go, oh man, I want to go again. Maybe I should get a job and not study so much because I want to go again, and I value that experience. But until you go, it's so hard to convince these guys. And I just asked Ferdesbeck, one of my Uzbek students. He just graduated, and he just went for 2 months. And he was posting on Instagram, and I was like, this guy's on the trip of a lifetime. And I have a bunch of Uzbek students, and the mentality's kind of saying, oh, it's hard to get a visa for me. For my country, it's too hard. I don't have enough money. And I said, listen, you had an amazing trip. Would you be willing to come back and talk to a group of my students? I'll put a huge group of students together. You come back and tell them, listen, you can do it. I'm the same as you. Work your ass off. Study hard. Represent, make your family and your country, whatever, proud. Don't be lazy. And then when you get the time, go and do it. And now he's like, man, he was in Bali and all over Indonesia and trying surfing and then Thailand and Philippines and Singapore, and I was like, wow, this guy's never going to have the same life because of that trip.
Sure.
I tell my students too, is you just got to take that first step. Like when I came back from my travels, I talked to my friends and people I knew, and they're all like, that sounds great. I want to travel someday.
Do it.
Very few of them ever did it.
Sure, yeah.
I tell them, you take that first step, and it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to have all the money you need. You're not going to have everything planned out like you do.
That's part of the experience.
Yeah, you take the step, and you go from there.
Yeah.
And I think there's so many different levels to it where I say, hey, you don't have to go to Africa first. Go to Europe.
Yeah, true.
And maybe if you're really worried, okay, go to Italy, France, Germany, England.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're a little adventurous, maybe try a little bit of Eastern Europe. And then, it's still fairly comfortable, safe. Mm-hmm. And then you can get more adventurous. You don't have to go to Asia or Africa right away. But
yeah, true.
There's many different kinds of travel. And I really believe that there's something out there for everyone. They hear something like, I don't like rats and cockroaches. And I'm like, well, you don't have to. That was just the way I did it. But you don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So
one of my favorite travel life genesis stories. Do you remember Luke, the photographer?
McDowell, yeah.
He said, I think he was grade 6, grade 7 at home. Yeah. His parents one day just came up and said, hey, you're going to France for the summer. And he's like, no, I'm not. I'm playing video games with my friends. Yeah. And he said his parents dragged him kicking and screaming to the airport, threw him on. He said he was like a miserable dickhead. He said for the first 2 weeks of his homestay, he's like, well, this is bullshit. And then came back. He said now he's like a travel photographer. Yeah. He said totally set the course for his life. He could never thank his parents enough for that.
Yeah, can have a big influence.
Absolutely.
Right
those formative years.
And even back to your first trip, I think those are also instrumental. Like my parents would bring us to Wisconsin Dells. Not too far from where you are. And I mean, Minnesota, I'm from Thunder Bay, so Minnesota is... Yeah.
Very close.
I mean, across the fence there. And so we go to Minnesota and play hockey, all my brothers and sisters. But those early days of traveling and road trips in Canada and America for hockey all over the place, those instilled that sense of travel and mystery and adventure. And I mean, if you went at 16, I mean, that's a...
Yeah, it just lit the fire for me.
That sounds like McAllister there going on his trip. But where did you go after that? So after that one, that... led you to England?
Yeah, I went to that when I was 16, came back, finished high school. I was all set after high school to go to Michigan State University. I had a partial scholarship, but I found out about this program in England at Harlexton University, which is a beautiful place, international school. It's a big castle out in the country.
Nice.
So I applied there late, but they had a student drop out, so I got accepted.
Beautiful.
So I was only planning on it, so I went there, planned to go for a year, went to Harlexton. It was just a wonderful experience. Did a lot of traveling during summer, winter breaks. And then I applied for a program at Oxford University, which I didn't expect to get accepted on, but I did it kind of a lark. So I applied there just before I was supposed to return back from Harlexton after my year there. I got notification that I was accepted at Oxford. So I planned then to go back to Oxford for 1 year. Yeah. But I'm going there for 2 years. So I lived for 3 years in England. It's kind of like a second home to me. I had a lot of good memories of it.
How cool is that, man?
And when you went traveling after the semesters, that was usually solo missions, or were you going with friends or classmates? Or
usually solo. My brother and I traveled together a couple big trips. We took a trip through the Sahara Desert, Western Europe, and then the Sahara Desert for like 40 days on the road. My brother and I had another trip behind the Iron Curtain, which very few Americans have done. This is at the height of the Cold War.
Okay. Oh yeah. We talked about this, and we thought, like, was he like sneaking into the into the Kremlin, or did he go to Turkey for lunch? What was the
That's what my friends always say.
Yeah. What was the extent of going behind the Iron Curtain?
I traveled for 3 weeks unaccompanied, no Communist Party official, no government minder, on our own vehicle, which is unheard of back in the day.
Wow. Yeah.
And it was a fascinating trip, very tense at times.
Sure.
And I think people that live like in a free country, free like society, don't understand a total unfree society. Yeah. Just like I think people that live in a communist, hardcore communist society can't understand freedom.
Sure.
They can to a degree. I'll give you an example. When I was in Czechoslovakia, it's that night my brother and I were traveling with another third guy. 3 of us were traveling through Eastern Europe, and we're up in the Tetra Mountains, and we go to this little hotel. We walk in, they ask for our passports. We show our passports, and it's an American passport.
Wait, what are you doing
so
here?
Everybody's shocked. And they take our passports, so we can't leave. So we're sitting in the hotel lobby. Yeah. All these people from the village start coming into the hotel. We just think it's by chance. Yeah. The hotel clerk, this really beautiful young woman, called everybody. Oh, there's Americans there, Americans there. So everybody came to the hotel to see us. Well, one guy that came to the hotel was this guy named Milos. and he spoke quite good English. Nobody spoke English. And he invited us to his bar. He had a little bar in this little town up in the mountains.
Yeah.
So he said, oh, come on, we'll talk. We'll have some drinks. We'll talk together. So we left this little hotel, and I could tell he was really nervous.
Yeah.
Because he's with these three foreigners. And they have Communist Party officials who monitor the village to see what people are doing. He didn't want to be seen. So he took us these back streets and so forth to his bar, took us in his back room, and we spent the whole night talking to him. And it was just a fascinating discussion.
Sure.
And the only information he had about the West was on VOA, Voice of America. My friend used to work on there. And he listened to Voice of America in his closet with a blanket over him. So his wife did not know, his children did not know. Nobody knew he listened to Voice of America because it's outlawed. So he had a little information about the West.
Wow.
But I tried to convince him, in America, I can go in front of the White House, stand on the street, and say, I don't like the president, he's a jerk.
Yeah.
He could not believe that.
Yeah,
really.
I know.
After 4 or 5 hours of talk, you can.
Sure.
No. Something happens. You get arrested. You lose your job. Something bad.
No.
And but it was a very, very interesting trip. And the border crossings in Eastern Europe were really tense.
Yeah, you'd have to show passport and ID
absolutely.
to get through there.
And we have a visa, which is unheard of for an American to travel with a visa unaccompanied. So when we crossed from East Germany to Poland, two communist countries. And exiting Poland, you got these big watchtowers with the spotlights and the machine guns and the soldiers and the dogs walking. We drive into the East Germany checkpoint to leave East Germany. So we pull up under these spotlights, the soldiers come, Communist Party official comes, they take us out of the car, 1, 2, 3, line up me, my friend, my brother. They go into the car and they start searching the car. We're there for 2 or 3 hours.
Oh my
God. And it's really tense. You know they have complete and total control of you.
Sure.
Finally, they stamp our passports, let us exit East Germany. Now we drive across no man's land. It's about 2 miles. Just militarized to get to Poland.
God.
Now in Poland, it's the same deal, but even more tense. We drive into the Poland sector, and there's all the watchdogs and the towers, and they pull our car up, they put it under a spotlight. Communist Party official comes, stands next to us with 2 soldiers on both sides of us, just intimidation.
Sure.
Then 4 or 5 soldiers go into the car, start searching the car while we're watching. Well, one soldier in the back seat stands up and tweet, tweet, blows this whistle, and all hell breaks loose. A whole parade of soldiers come and surround us, like we do a run somewhere. Where do we go? And they check the car, and they put cables into the car. They put mirrors, long mirrors, and under the car. They had every piece of paper was identified that was in the car with the coffee receipt. They brought it out. Who's this? Put in front of us. Then they took each of us individually and searched us in a private room, other area, which was real scary. Because at that time in the communist world, I was in the Soviet Union. Prior to that, they told me this gesture means you disappeared. You're just gone. Yeah. And nobody knows where you went, what happened to you. Nobody asked about you. You didn't exist. And that's what I thought would happen to us. I was really worried about that. The whole ship was being taken or disappeared. And so anyways, we got into Poland, made it through Poland. And then also too, in those countries, they control all your money. They want to control the black market. Okay. So every dollar, every euro, every French franc, everything we bring into the country is documented.
And they want it accounted for. They want receipts and everything.
Absolutely. Wow. So every time we spend money, it's got to be officially documented. You spent this money, that money's gone.
Oh, my God.
Well, when we got to Poland, we traded black market on the street.
Yeah.
We made 22 to 1. In other words, on the street, they'd pay us 22 times what the bank would pay us for the same money.
Wow.
So we did that. We really needed money, so we traded black market. But now our money's short. Money's missing. We have no document for it. We traded black market on the street. So now we know leaving Poland is going to be a big problem. So we calculated all our money, how much money we had between the 3 of us. Between the 3 of us, we had enough money to show my money, my brother's money, third party. Yeah. So our great plan was, when we go into the custom building, I'll have the money. I'll show the money first. When they pass it back to me, I'll hand the same money to my brother onto the table. And then they'll hand it to the third guy, to Ed. So we did that. I handed it to my brother. We got through that. Then my brother tried to hand it to the third guy, and the official saw him. Yeah. Grabbed his hand. What's that? What's this? Yeah. Now he knew he had us. Uh-oh. So then he sits back like a cop in an interrogation office. Just, we know he's got us. He knows he's got us. Yeah. And he says, okay, what do you have to declare? Nothing.
I want to go home.
Yes, yeah, exactly. 3 times. What do you have to declare? We bought all kinds of stuff when we were in Poland. We bought beautiful chess sets and vases and artwork. So our car is filled with all this Polish goods we have no record of, but we can't declare it.
Polish chocolate melting in your front pocket.
So we say nothing. So the official says, okay, you. He points to me, takes me out of the office to the area where our car is with a spotlight, searchlight, starts searching the car. We opens the trunk, and there's a beautiful vase. There's a painting. He says, what's this? I say, gift.
Italian.
Polish friend gave a gift. No buy, gift. He knew he had us now for black market. So now he takes us back into the custom building, but this time he takes us into a back private room without the soldiers. So it's just the Communist Party official.
Plastic all over the walls. And like, oh, no.
My brother,
You just got to give him some of that 22-1.
Well, that's kind of what happened. My one friend had 2 gold cross pens, which are like really expensive, like $110 or something each, in his pocket. So the custom official's just like grilling us, you know. He looks at my friend's pocket. He pulls out a piece of paper, puts it on the desk, casually reaches over, takes one of the pens out of my friend's pocket, writes something, and puts the pen in his pocket.
Oh.
And he looks at us like, we're like, yeah, that's good. You keep that. You keep
taking
that. And he took the second pen. And that's what he took for his bribe. And
wild.
That's how he got out. But I used to always keep cash for bribes.
Sure.
A load of cash.
It's impossible. Or it's
So, Germany, Poland.
East Germany, Poland, Czechoslovakia. Iron Curtain. And I went to the Soviet Union a different time.
And you were there for how long? A couple months?
No, I was behind Iron Curtain for about 4 weeks.
Wow.
We were traveling. Soviet Union was like about 5-6 days.
So, when you say like you were really scared and stuff, is that? I think I kind of have some similar stories, but people say like, are you dumb? Like you knew that before you went. Why did you go? Is it the thrill seek? Is it the adrenaline that you know something crazy might happen? It's not. I mean, the guy who stole Otter One beer or whatever, stole the Otter One beer. I think that's different. I think, going to Afghanistan in the middle as an American during the maybe, but is it part of the thrill seeking? Is that what it is? Or I mean, you could have went to Italy.
No, it was just both my brother and I when we were young. It was just we saw the world was out there, and back then there's no internet, there's no cell phones, there's no ATM money machines, so it's much more of a mystery.
But there was news.
There was news, but like the Soviet Union, I'd never seen anything behind the Iron Curtain except in that one movie,
Rocky IV.
He had a film where he's looking one way down the street, another way. It showed a little bit of Moscow besides the normal, red square things.
Sure, yeah.
And so it was just a big mystery. And for me, I just wanted to see the world. And we were just kind of a little stupid,
so kind of naive,
fearless.
But that's the same as that Otto Warm.
And just went and did it.
Wow.
Right? He's 8, just graduated high school.
It was 2019 or something. Come on. You know what to do and what you can't do, and I mean that's
Oh no, of course. I mean, there's more information, but it's the age that's the problem, not the spread of information.
And I was always careful of where I was. I'd see some people just like, well, I'm American. I got the same rights as I have in America. I can do what I want. Yeah. I was always very respectful, very polite, and very careful what I did and who I was around. Yeah. And
in those kind of scary situations, or being in, being how do you say, it's kind of like there's some higher baseline level of stress that you're feeling. Do you learn to trust your gut more?
Oh, absolutely.
In that? Yeah,
absolutely. Gut instinct was very important for me.
Yeah.
You mentioned in that first video on YouTube, or second video, the situational awareness.
Yes.
Which I think a lot of young people don't have, and a lot of people who've never left their country don't have.
I think it's true.
And it's most obvious to me when I go on a trip. I just got back from 5 weeks in Central Asia with my kids and my wife. Yeah. Very different trip than the solo, backpacking missions and stuff.
Yeah.
But I remember when I went to Philippines, I started almost a 2-year Asian backpacking trip, and it was my second day in Philippines. And we just had a big going away party here, and I was like half in Korea and just starting to turn into backpack mode. Yeah. And my camera was gone. I was like, stupid. I was just still stuck in work mode, Korean mode yet. I didn't turn it on. I didn't turn it on yet.
Yeah.
But then from that moment on, I probably caught in 2 years, I probably caught 20 or 30 guys with their hands in my, grab their hand before he's got my stuff.
Yeah.
And that situation, listening to your thing, I just had so many situations. I'm like, oh man. And I don't know, I probably foiled a lot more that I don't even know I did just from being aware.
Mm-hmm.
And I think having that is a real crucial skill or
it is
thing to have when you're, especially in the developing world.
Absolutely.
Where you have no idea how things work and what's going on around you, and you don't know the language usually, you don't know the culture.
No,
it's different, I think, if you're in France or Italy or maybe even Mexico, but the further out you get from your comfort zone, you better have a lot of that, because you get taken advantage of.
I've seen some crazy ones on YouTube, man, where they got like a team of 6 dudes. One comes and bumps you from the right, you turn around, smacks you in the back of the head, takes your wallet.
Whole team's got kids.
That's what happened to me in the Philippines. I felt like such a... I just didn't have my brain on yet. But, wow, that's a wild trip. Do you feel... when you're in a situation like that with the guards and stuff...
Yeah.
Is there kind of like a peaceful feeling as well? Like a little bit of intimidated, a little bit scared, but the worst you can do is kill me. I'll be dead. Nobody knows. I mean, unless you're thinking of torture and stuff, but they don't want that, right? They don't need that. It doesn't do anything for them. After you've traveled a bit, you understand that a bribe in most of these countries can get you off. But like, I felt like just being able to surrender and say, hey, when I was traveling, I said, I got nothing. What do you want? You want my backpack? I got one pair of pants. I got 2 pairs of shorts. Take whatever you want. As long as I have my passport, I'll figure out the rest.
Right.
But I don't really have anything, so I don't know what you want from me. I don't even have dollars or... Is there... Did you have that kind of like feeling of surrender where like... I'm worried, but we're okay because there's nothing...
I kind of did as far as my possessions. Like back when I was traveling, the American passport went for big money in the black market. So I was always very careful with my passport. People trying to steal that. Nowadays, it's cell phones, my money and so forth. So I was always very, very careful and very, very aware. But sometimes when I was, especially in the communist world, it was just a feeling of just being completely vulnerable. You're totally vulnerable. You have no voice. I can't talk to anybody. Can't talk to a lawyer. Can't talk to family. Can't talk to anybody. I'm just alone in this whole big system. Whether it was Poland or Soviet Union, it's a huge country. They got hundreds of thousands of soldiers. They got the military, blah 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 blah, and it's me.
Yeah.
And it's a very uncomfortable feeling. And that's what I felt like at the borders and the other situations, and mostly in the communist world. Like when I was in Vietnam. When Vietnam just opened up, there were almost no foreigners, and I had an incident with a soldier. But I didn't have that same feeling of total vulnerability, which I had in the communist world. There's just nothing.
Have you happened to go through Myanmar on your travels?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so when I was in Myanmar, it was right before the Civil War started, and they overthrew Aung San Suu Kyi and put all the monks in the Shwedagon Pagoda and locked them up. That was a month after I left.
Oh,
and
really?
I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, time.
So when I was there, it was still very closed. Still had the trade embargoes with America. No jeans, no Coca-Cola, no... I mean, it was like a time warp to the 60s. And this would have been 2007, maybe?
Yeah.
And you felt like you went back to your grandpa's early days.
Yeah, true.
And there was nothing. We had the minders. We had the minders follow us the whole trip. And the same thing. Trading money on the black market was, I think, 15 to 1. And you couldn't afford not to. But they wanted to see your transactions. But, the travel guides and stuff said, you can't. The government gives you nothing. You'll need to bring way too much money for stuff that costs nothing. So we traded on the black market, and I remember walking down the street. We asked, where's the best place? They said, go here, turn left, right, go into this door. We walk into the door, and there's nothing there. It's a guy under a stairwell with a desk, and we were like, is this where we trade money?
That's like Philippines when you got to pay your going away tax. Some guy give me $100.
So you have a great trip in the Philippines, then you're on your way out, and they're like, exit tax, $50. You go, what a sour way to end my trip.
Yeah,
and I just spent all my last pesos on a massage or hair braiding for my kids, and now anyways. So these guys, there's no ATMs.
No.
In the whole country when I went.
Oh, I see.
You couldn't exchange money anywhere outside of Yangon.
Mm-hmm.
So, but everybody goes north to Bagan and Mandalay, but you can't. So you have to bring money for your whole time, and you couldn't get a visa out of there unless you left your passport for 5 days somewhere. I was getting a visa to India, but so they make it so you have to, and the flights only leave the day before you get your passport back.
Wow.
It's set up so you got to stay at least 10 days
just waiting,
because the flight out was only every 5 days to India and one to Thailand, and your passport had to be held for 5 days to get the visa from the Indian embassy. And I was like, what a racket this is.
Yeah.
So I went in and we changed. I think I was with a Swedish couple, I think, and a British guy, and we changed, I don't know, $500 each. $500 was like 25 million chat. And the whole backpack, like my whole little pack, was full of cash. And you walk out of there going, everybody knows that these four guys' backpacks are full of money. And I was like, this is another setup. Like, who's not going to mug us now? When they know we went under the magic stairwell, the guy just opens a drawer and starts loading money on me. Oh my God. Yeah. So a lot of those things, I mean, probably not as severely regulated, but I felt a lot of that when I was in Myanmar.
Yeah.
Do you feel now, I mean, having lived here, being exposed to the media, there's lots of literature, now a lot of defectors out telling their stories. Can you feel or sympathize or empathize with the people of North Korea and what it's like there?
Oh, I think it's terrible for them. I'd hate to live in that system. I mean, I've heard stories about the leader there, Kim, wants to live forever. So he's taken like 100 doctors across the country, just took them out of their profession, their normal work, and they got to work on some kind of life-saving symptom or medicine they'll keep him alive forever. And it's like behind the communist world when I was traveling, it's just, you got no rights at all. You got no voice.
So that's, I mean, do you think that's stricter than what you experienced? I mean, not having experienced it, but now we can read, we can watch documentaries. Do you think that's a harder core version of what you experienced?
I think it's similar to what I experienced. The thing when I was young traveling, though, there was just no contact. There was no internet. There was no cell phone. There was no ATM money machine. It's like you said, all my money I had for a year when I left for school was in my pocket. Yeah. If I lost that money, I got robbed, I got mugged or conned.
Toast.
I'm toast for the year. You know, and then the same with my parents. Like when I wrote my book, Travel Man Across the Sahara and Beyond, my parents had no idea what I went through in my travels. They knew I traveled real cheaply, real ruggedly. But that trip, I took a 40-day trip from England all the way across Western Europe, Belgium, Switzerland, Italy, took a ship to Sicily, hitchhiked across Sicily, then snuck on a ship, we were stowaways across the Mediterranean Sea from Sicily to Tunisia. And then we ended up hitchhiking about 1,500 kilometers across the Sahara Desert, which I don't know if anybody's ever done that.
On what, a camel?
Just whatever came by. There wasn't much of a selection.
Rattlesnake.
But the thing was, they always stopped. They never saw foreigners, never saw Americans where I was at. So the hitchhiking was actually some of the best I had. But it was just an incredible, and there's just no contact. So my father read my book a few years ago when I published it, and he's like, Dennis.
What the hell?
I didn't know you were doing this. He said, I'm glad I didn't know. I'd been way too worried.
Sure.
And I never asked my parents for a dime when I was traveling. I never called home with a problem. Later on, when I got married, they helped me with different things. But my younger days, and just they didn't know what continent I was in, let alone what country or city. So my mother used to ask me, well, Dennis, when you travel, just send a postcard with a time, a date, and a place. Well, right now I'm in Turin, Italy. It's 12 o'clock on Thursday, September 5th. So he has some way of backtracking. Otherwise, I have no idea. I'm out in the world somewhere.
And to compare to, I mean, parents today, I got a student I teach, and he comes home from school, and I meet him there, and his mom's at work. But she'll check his location
on
the phone.
It's a different world now.
How crazy!
Well,
is that?
I thought, I mean, I'm born in 1980, so traveling in 77, I can't relate to. But when I was working in Ghana, the village that I was living in, there was only one telephone. Oh. And it was like this call center, but the call center was like an outhouse. Mm-hmm. And it was just one guy with a chair and a desk.
I can relate to that.
And a phone. And it was, I don't know who they ever called because it never worked. Mm-hmm. But probably once every 6 weeks, someone would come running, Madingo, your father is calling. And my place was probably 800 meters from that phone booth.
Yeah.
Or phone station, and the small boys would run down the street, come and get me and say, "You have to come quickly, your father is calling." And I would sprint down there, and they'd be like, "So sorry, the call is lost." And I was like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
And then I'd call back 3 times, 4 times. The number's 26 numbers long, and you're like, "This doesn't work," and you just get frustrated and leave. And once in a while, you would get through. I mean, like out of 10 calls missed, you might get 1 to work. And then I remember talking for 5 minutes one time, and there was 3 people waiting outside, and the guy's like, Madingo. And I was like, it's been 5 minutes. I haven't talked to my parents in 2 months. And I'm like, what? You don't understand this? Yeah. I've been on for 5 minutes. He's like, they have to call very important. Their calls are like 8 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in Accra tomorrow, 2 o'clock. Have it ready. Done. And that's a business call. And these guys are waiting going, who's this guy taking 10 minutes on the phone? I was like,
I love the efficiency.
I was like, guys, I'm gonna be 30 minutes, so go get a drink or something to eat or whatever and come back. And they're like, no, that's not, you can't do that. But I used to think that was pretty wild and weird, getting a 10-minute call in every couple of months. But I can't imagine, having no connection, no contact.
No, like our trip across Northern Africa, I had no contact with my family. I tried to make an international call a few times, and at that time they'd have like a phone bank. You have to make a reservation like 2 days in advance, come at a certain time, and then the phone service wasn't working, or maybe if by some, which rarely happened, I never made a call actually through that. But so the communication was just completely different.
Yeah.
Now you can be anywhere in the world with your phone. You can get internet. You can get pictures. See pictures where you are.
You mentioned earlier, and I mean this was my first adventure trip since having kids. We did some relaxed Singapore, Philippines, Thailand stuff, pretty easy going. But this was kind of backpacking for 5 weeks in Central Asia, and man. You just put in a SIM card, and I was like, I've never done this. I was researching before I left, like, all you young guys use SIM cards. How does it work? I asked my international kids, what do you do? They're like, it's so easy. And I was like, I don't know. I got to walk across the border, and there's like 6 kids there. Do you need SIM card? I was like, yes, I don't know what it is or how it works. I know I should pay about this much. She goes, give me your passport. And I was like, I don't know about that. What are you going to do with it? They're just like, they look like homeless kids on the street. And she takes my passport, puts in my number, plays with my phone for 2 minutes. She goes, okay, unlimited internet. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
What a different world, man.
Completely different.
And I thought, you mentioned before about people worried about getting their phones stolen and stuff. I think it is a worry, but not nearly as much as it would have been 5 years ago, maybe. Everybody's got a phone.
Yeah, everywhere you go, they got a phone.
Everybody had a phone. The poorest places in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan.
Yes.
Everybody. The beggars come up and say, oh, and I was like,
QR code?
You got gold earrings and a phone.
Yeah.
This is a different level of begging than
totally different world.
I'm used to. So, wow, yeah, what a different environment now.
So, a question maybe for both of you guys. Nate's fresh back off a trip, but is there any tradition or practice from other countries that you wish existed here?
Well, I kind of like in Korea the respect for older people.
Sure.
Age. It's kind of changed so much since I've been here. But sometimes I feel like in America, you get older, it's just kind of like you're useless, kind of set aside. I read some study about elderly in America. Many of them never speak to a person in a week. In 1 week, they have maybe one conversation.
I saw something like
that.
One
of the highest causes of death now is the loneliness crisis.
Yeah. So I like that about here.
Yeah. Still a collective
age is respected. I like also education, but I think it's kind of like overkill. But education is very respected.
Sure.
And children are taught to be diligent. You study. I think in America you have more freedoms and so forth, but sometimes education is kind of set aside.
Sure.
So those are a couple of things
In the West, we've kind of gone to the other end of the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
It's just a free for all. And if you don't have that upbringing with some guidance and morals, values,
some kind of standards,
it's pretty easy to get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, I agree.
Where here there's still a lot of checks and balances to keep you on track. Which, I mean, some of them we like, some of them we don't. But
any takeaways from any cultural practices you wish from Kazakhstan, or any big takeaways?
I think there's lots everywhere, right? That's why they say, like, I'm a cherry picker. I just love picking all the goods out of all the places I've been and try to incorporate them into my life. They're even from the devotion to praying. I mean, even if it's, Sunday church when I was young reminds me of Friday at the mosque. But now Sunday church is kind of like lost its luster. It's just kind of the same. Everything's kind of like relaxed.
Yeah, relaxed
version.
Kind of just
light
a light version.
Yeah.
The family unit is a light version of family. The respect is a very light version. But in lots of these places, like, the Friday mosque, guys are coming in, and some guys have like styrofoam mats, like the Baskin-Robbins ice cream bag kind of like foil mat. Some of them have like Louis Vuitton mats, like carpets to pray on. Some of them have like traditional ones. But that brotherhood, I don't know. There's just something that feels cool about it, and I think, wow,
it's a conservative values.
We don't really have this.
Just kind of set aside here.
I think the independence is great, but I don't know if it's gone over. Like your time in Africa, I'm sure you saw it as well. Like 3, 4, 5-year-old kids taking care of 1 and 2-year-old siblings.
Yeah,
because mom's got a newborn.
There's also too the code they had there was in the desert and among a lot of Arabs I knew was that if somebody asks you for assistance, you must help them.
Right.
Whatever it is, if it's somebody needs some water, they're lost, whatever it is, you must help them. And when I traveled across the Sahara, like 40 days, I was hitchhiking, so I had a lot of contact with people, and I found that the case. Anytime I asked for something, they'd bend over backward to make sure they
so much different than back home.
I find that a lot in Korea. People will, I remember guys before I was married, I'd say, "Do you know where this is?" And they'd say, "Oh, come with me."
Take you around
for 50 meters? No, for 2 kilometers. Like, no, dude, you must have been going somewhere, had something to do.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay. I said, no. I was like, man, it's hard to find this back home. One thing from the recent trip back to Islam and the Muslim countries is the not wasting food. We were at a pretty fancy high-end restaurant in Bishkek with one of my old students, and they were taking us out and treating us, but there was a pile of food left, and I was like, you don't go for a high-end meal at home and then bring out like 6 doggy bags or something of food.
Oh, right.
And there it's, you don't waste anything. Mm-hmm. Nothing's wasted. And I think of Korea and I go, man, all those banchans every night. I still think Korea should have a checklist of which banchans you want and which ones you don't.
Right.
Because they're only 50 years out of having no food.
Yeah, it's a very big
How
change.
Can we waste so much food here? It's incredible.
Yeah.
So, okay, I want to hear about this trip across the Sahara. You mentioned in a stowaway on a ship from Sicily to where? Tunisia. Yeah,
Tunis, actually.
Tunis. What was that like?
It was just kind of another world. We'd been traveling kind of hard and fast across Western Europe. We hitchhiked. We had so little money.
One thing you mentioned was $6 a day.
That's true.
And I didn't have enough time to read the book. He sent me the thing. I was like, want to meet this guy. Want to talk to this guy. Can't get the book in Kazakhstan. I'm not going to have time to read it, but I will. $6 a day. Was that including in Europe?
That includes everything.
Everywhere. Wow.
We were on the road for 40 days. My brother and I had not seen him like for several months prior to this trip. I was going to school in England.
Nice.
So we planned we'll meet up in London.
Sweet.
December, I forgot the date, platform 5 at 5 p.m. at King's Cross Station.
Oh, my God.
So I hadn't contacted. I didn't know if he was
This is 1977.
77.
For context.
No.
This wasn't you sent him a message on your phone yesterday.
No. So I show up at the train station. We're both planned to have $700 apiece, which would be really tight for 40 days, especially that distance. So I show up at the train station. My brother comes out of the crowds and he says, "Hey, you made it. Yeah. So how much money you got?"
$250.
He's got $175. And I got $180.
Yeah.
So I remember we talked, man, what do we do? We got this whole break time, And so we walked out of the train station around London for a while. We decided we'll go for it. And our big thinking was, well, in Africa, it'll be warm. It'll be warm there. So we'll go for it. So we just started taking off on this trip.
You had a plan for this trip, or
no? So we had no maps, nothing.
So what were you? You were in the UK.
I was in the UK studying. I had my semester break in wintertime.
So when you said "let's go for it," what did that mean? Like let's go to France?
Well, just go to Africa. That was go to Africa.
But the closest one would have been straight down to Morocco.
Yeah, we had no plan. Like I said, we had no.
Let's go to Africa. Somehow we're in Greece,
and just started out on the trip. I remember from London. We got this overnight train from London to Paris. Got into Paris. We had older French couple my family knew. Showed up at their house. They really took care of us in their flat. And then we left there, and it was just this crazy adventure.
Wild.
And we spent 40 days on the road. We only paid for lodging 3 times out of 40 nights.
Nice.
We slept in train stations, slept in the backyard, slept at a Bedouin camp. We had this one crazy story sleeping in this tractor. I'll tell you real quick.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, not quick. Give us the full version.
Okay, we're in France. We're trying to hitchhike from Paris down to Italy and then cross over to Africa. So we're in Paris, and we get out there at 6 in the morning early, start hitchhiking, and nobody would give us a ride. So we're out there 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, 7 hours. Nobody would give us a ride.
Goddamn
so we start walking and hitching out of Paris. Finally, a car stops. Think, oh, great, we got our first ride. We hop in the car. He drives just about 30 kilometers out of Paris. Dumps us off in the country. So now in the country, it's getting dark. It's evening. It's around the road. So we hitchhike until like 12 in the morning. Now there's almost no cars out there. We're lost out in the country. Don't know where we are. Been on the road for about 15 hours trying to hitchhike, and then it starts pouring rain. The clouds open up and there's pouring rain. So we're looking out and we got a backpack. We're tired. Where can we go? Where can we go? We see out in the distance field this big tractor. That's all I can see through the mist and the rain is this tractor. So we run sliding through the mud, climb up. The tractor's open. We climb in the tractor, close the door. We're dead tired. We're soaking wet. We're muddy. We just fall fast asleep. I thought it was like 5 minutes. We slept probably 3 or 4 hours. Then we hear this banging on the door of the tractor. So we both wake up, and it's a construction worker. He's coming out to a site to work. And he's pissed off.
Sure.
We're in his tractor.
They're
Then
all
he calls
muddy and
his
shit,
buddies
too.
over. There's about 12 other construction workers. We then see the site. It's a construction site. So they drag us out of the tractor, pull us up to their foreman, who's got this big truck with this radio at the time, kind of this phone. And they go back out in the field and start working at the site. So we're talking to this foreman, the boss, and he's speaking in French, which I know about this much French.
Sure.
And I hear the word policio. I know policio. So as soon as he says that word, I look at my brother. It's like, let's go. Let's get out of here. So we take off on a dash across the muddy field back to the road. The foreman, surprised, he calls the other construction workers. Now we got this crew of construction workers chasing us to the road through the mud. So I'm slipping in the mud, trying to stay up. And now it's morning traffic. There's a lot of cars in the road. So we get to the road. We start running down the road. They're chasing us, hitchhiking as we're running. Well, they're getting closer and closer. We're afraid they're going to catch us and beat us up. So we zigzag across the road, start hitchhiking the opposite direction.
Nice.
So now they're on this side of the road, the group of construction workers. We're on this side hitchhiking, and they're yelling threats at us in French, and we're just smiling and hitchhiking. And the best luck I had, a car stops. This very well-dressed businessman, beautiful, clean car. We're all muddy and dirty. Puts us in his car, and he ends up driving us to a little train station out in the country.
Beautiful.
And then we took the train back to Paris, backtracked, to start over again. That was the beginning of our trip.
Rewind.
And then we started sneaking on trains across Europe. We'd hitchhike, sneak on a train. Sometimes we get caught. I get kind of the soft spot for train conductors, though.
Just one before. So, your brother came from the States, right?
Yes.
And met you in the UK or in England. What did you guys have with you? What were you? Because one of the excerpts for the book is one pair of pants or whatever,
which is true.
So what?
It sounds
just for some context for the people. What did you have with you when you're planning 40 days? That's all you knew was 40 days. Let's get to Africa.
We didn't know how long it'd be. We thought 30, 40 days.
And what did you have with you?
I had one pair of brown corduroy pants. I had a T-shirt, 2 T-shirts. I had a shirt that was kind of a long sleeve, a little warmer. Then I had like an old sweater. Then I had my high school leather jacket. No, I had that, but I had that. Then I had this big overcoat. So that's what I had. Yeah. And a few pairs of underwear. I could put everything in my backpack, and I hated carrying stuff when I traveled. So I never carried a backpack or a sleeping bag. Yeah. I never carried more than I could put on myself at one time. Yeah. So that's all I had. And we had no maps. We later got maps in Paris from the people we stayed with. their father-in-law brought us out some maps one night of Europe and Africa. We lost that really quickly. Got dropped in the mud and the snow, and we never used maps. So when we traveled across northern Africa, we were literally traveling blind. We had no idea. I had no idea the shape of Tunisia. I knew Algeria was big, but I didn't know where the shape was, or Morocco. The roads we didn't know, and that led us on some really crazy adventures.
And this was in the winter?
Yeah, this is December. December.
So you made out of Paris and?
Made out of Paris. We started hitchhiking south. Got stuck in the tractor, then took a train back to Paris, then started sneaking on trains and hitchhiking down through Europe, France, Switzerland, got to Italy. I mean, one experience in Italy, we're out on the road in the early morning, 6 o'clock. I got a little bit of beard, I'm traveling hard. And this car goes by with these three pretty French girls, Italian girls, and they whistle. So we wave at them. They drive by.
Different times.
About 10 minutes later, the same car pulls back around and gives us a ride. So we hop in the car with these 3 girls. They drive us for like 2 hours, way down the road. Then they stop and let us off. We say, thank you. We can hop out again. They leave. They come back a second time.
Beautiful.
Picked us up a second time and drove us further. I think all the way down to Rome. And then from there, we just kept hitchhiking, sneaking on trains, got to Sicily. And then from Sicily, we wanted to take a ship to northern Africa, Tunisia, in Trapani. And all we had was this one date on Wednesday at this time. There should be a ship leaving from Trapani.
Wow.
We didn't know if it'd be there. We didn't know anything about that. That was our timetable. So we hitchhiked across Sicily. The coast of Sicily was beautiful. Got to this shipyard, ran down to the shipyard, and there was a ship there, just getting ready to pull out.
Beautiful.
So we ran into the custom building.
How do you know where he was? You knew he was going to Africa?
There's only basically one route they go from Messina to Tunisia. So we went down to the shipyard. We didn't have a ticket. We had our passport stamp. There was a big crowd of people arguing with the custom official near the boat. So we kind of filtered in with them and just walked out from the crowd onto the plank. So we walked across the plank, and there's a boatman on the ship, and we just showed confidence, walked right past him on the ship with no ticket, then got in the ships, and we had to kind of hide in the ship for the rest of the ship ride.
That's all right.
But we got into Tunisia with no ticket for the ship.
How long was the ride on the ship?
It was pretty long. It was like 12, 15 hours. And they had to stop out in the ocean at nighttime and wait for the morning to let us off the ship. So we were sitting on the ocean or the Mediterranean for a while.
Wow. And then getting into Tunisia, is there immigration or something there when you get there, or no?
Yeah, there's immigration, and so we get into Tunisia. It's nighttime. No, it's mid-afternoon, middle of the afternoon. And we got to get our stamp. We get stamped to let us into Tunisia. We go into the streets of Tunis, and then it's like unbelievable, the attention. I mean, I'd gotten attention in other countries, but just everybody is just staring everywhere we go.
Stares, eh?
Thankfully, was friendly stares. They're kind of hospitable. And so we walk through the streets of Tunis, like, wow, what do we do? Everybody's staring at us. Find a little place to eat. We walk in this little shop, buy some little meat sandwich, and all these men come in the shop, surround us. But they're friendly. They want to touch us. They want to shake our hand. So this one guy, what his name was, Theron, asked us to go to a little coffee shop with him. We go to the coffee shop with him, have some coffee with his friends, talk with him. Then we find a cheap hotel, and then we start our trip across Africa. We told them, we're going from Tunisia, we're going to Algeria. And they're all shocked, like, we can't go to Algeria. Nobody goes to Algeria. We don't have visas. You can't get a visa. You can't go to Algeria. We knew nothing. We're like, well, that's where we're going. So the next day we wake up early, always at dawn, get out on the road, start hitchhiking, and got on a bus across Tunisia through the Sahara Desert. And remember, it's always just men. When we were in the Sahara, it was always men. Women were just kind of not seen. They're covered up by hijabs in the shadows.
How did you know Algeria? Why was Algeria a destination of
It was
interest?
just next in line.
Right.
We go across Tunisia.
Okay, so you didn't know if you were going to get to Morocco or something like Algeria?
We planned to go Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco.
Okay.
And I'd never seen a map of Tunisia or Algeria. I saw a map one time of Morocco. I didn't know the shape or the size of Algeria. Okay. I know the names of the cities.
And when you went, did you anticipate going through the Sahara? Or if you went along the coast, I mean, the coast is reasonably developed, right?
That's what we planned. We planned we'll get through Tunisia, cross into Algeria, we'll go up to the coast, the Mediterranean coast, and we'll travel along the northern Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco. Be a relatively much easier route.
Right.
Well, what happened when we crossed from Tunisia to Algeria, I read it's the most desolate border in the world, which I believe. We're in this little town called Farina, in Tunisia. We need to get out to the border to cross the border. Well, there's nothing out there. There's just one little strip of pavement going out to the border, disappears in the desert. So we had to hire a guy with a Jeep. This man had a big Jeep. So we paid the guy some money. He drove us from Farina out to the border post. Well, the border post, I got a photo of this. I don't have it with me, but all there is one little white building is Tunisia, to exit Tunisia. One strip of pavement, no lines in the road, no markings, no signs. And then about a mile down the road, another building, and that's Algeria. Everywhere you look, it's just empty Sahara Desert.
Wow.
Nothing there. So we walk into this Tunisian border post to exit Tunisia. We walk in the building, there's like 4 or 5 soldiers. And they're tough-looking soldiers. They got beards. They got rifles. They're sweaty. They're dirty. And they're not friendly. It's a very hostile environment. So we walk in there. They're shocked to see these foreigners come in. Nobody crosses that border. And then they ask for our passports. We put our American passports down, and now they're completely shocked.
Yeah.
2 Americans?
What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? You're trying to go to Algeria? So we're in there for like an hour and a half. It's really tense. The guy took soldiers took our passports, this back room, the other soldiers around us, surrounding us. Finally, he comes back, stamps their passports. Now we can exit Tunisia. So we start walking across this road. Now it's getting dark, it's evening time, to Algeria, about a kilometer to the Algeria building. We walk up to the Algeria building. It's like 2 soldiers sitting out outside the building. And it's the same thing. They're very hostile. They're not friendly. They've got their rifles, their uniforms. We walk in the building, and it's the same, just shocked. What are these guys doing? So we walk in. Immediately, one guy gets behind the counter. We know he's the guy in charge, this big soldier. He takes our passports, start going through our passports. He asks for our money. He sees our passports. Visa. Where's your visa? We didn't even know we're supposed to have a visa.
Yeah.
We were so, just completely unprepared.
No visa on arrival?
No visa. So it's like, sits us down. Now we don't know what he's going to do with us. Yeah. Technically, we just broke the law. We tried to enter the country illegally. So we sit down on this bench with these 3 soldiers around us. He goes in the back room, slams the door. We're just waiting. What's our fate? What's he going to decide? He can do anything he wants with us out there. Nobody's ever known.
Same level of
uncomfortableness
as the Soviet Union, or no?
The Soviet Union was worse, because Soviet Union was the entire system, not just that one room, one situation. But it's very close, very close. So we sit there and wait. Finally, he comes back, gives us our passports, and he says, "No entry, back Tunisia, back." So now we got to leave the Algerian building, walk across this empty desert to Tunisia, and hope they'll let us in Tunisia.
Yeah.
If they say no entry,
let us back into
Tunisia. We just left there an hour, 2 hours before. Yeah. So we don't know if they'll let us in. So I was really scared they're going to say no. We're standing out in the middle of the road, in the middle of the desert.
Sure.
So we finally walk back, get our guts up, we walk into the building. He crosses out the Tunisian exit visa and says Gasta. I didn't know what Gasta meant. So we leave the building, we walk back into this little town of Farina. Not a town, there's a couple little windswept buildings. And this older Arab man walks out of one of the buildings.
Hello, I'm Gasfa.
Very tall guy. And he says, gestures, what do you need? And we say, we need to go back, to take a car. He doesn't understand. Finally, we say the word Farina. We knew the village name. He recognized it. He says, wait. So we sit down by the building out there in the wind in the middle of the desert, waiting for like 2 hours. Don't know what's going on. Finally, this old Jeep pulls in the town, and there's a guy there, this young Tunisian guy.
Oh, cool.
He puts us in his car, drives us back to Farina. We find out Gasfa is another town. It's about 110 miles back. So we got to backtrack 110 miles, which I hate backtracking, spending money without making distance. Backtrack. This really kind Algerian immigration officer at the office in Gasfa gave us our visa, took our visa picture, charged us nothing.
Oh,
then he documented all our money. Every dime we bring in the country, just like Eastern Europe, is documented. Send us on our way. We go back out to the same border crossing 2 days later, get out of Tunisia, go into Algeria. This time we have the visa, they let us enter. I found out later they did not issue visas, I believe, for like 25 years to any foreigners coming to Algeria. But we had the visa, so they said, okay, enter. He points across the room to this door going out. Well, now, to show how unprepared we were, we're like, well, what do we do now? we're at this border post. We know we're miles and miles from anywhere. How are we going to get into town? So we walk back over to the soldier, ask him about, bus transportation.
Listen, dude, I got $6.
And he said, no, 4 days, 3 days, next bus, next car, 3 days.
Oh, Jesus.
So we have an option of wait at that border post for 3 days with these 4 or 5 soldiers with all these guns, not friendly at all,
sure, or
walk. So I tell my brother, we got to walk it.
Sure.
We got to walk. So we leave that border post, start walking out into the Sahara Desert. We got no food. No
vultures
water.
are just flying over you, just looking like they're going to go down soon.
Their next meal.
Hold up, boys.
Into the desert was the dark nights. There was just no stars. So we couldn't see anything.
Oh, wow.
And we walked about 6 hours into the darkness.
Good
and it was so dark when we walked, we couldn't tell if we were on the road or the desert, because the desert had hard rock in that area. So we'd have to kneel down sometimes and touch the desert or the road to make sure we're not on the road, not in the desert.
Wow.
So we walked for like 6 or 7 hours just into the emptiness, like twilight zone, just all dark. And finally, after about 6, 7 hours, it's now around midnight or so, we see 2 lights coming from behind us. We don't know what it is. We could just see these 2 little lights.
Border guards going home?
Closer, yeah, it was.
Oh, nice.
One of the soldiers from the checkpoint. He's in his car. He pulls up. We kind of finally walk around the car to see who's in it. We're shocked to see a soldier. He's got a big pistol right here. He's got a big rifle right here. He's much bigger than both my brother and I.
Yeah.
He looks at us and he tells us to get in the car. He doesn't ask us.
Yeah.
So we hop in the car. My brother's in the front. I'm in the back. He starts driving into Algeria. Well, we think the first town in Algeria is about 40 miles. The only map I had, which wasn't really a map, was in a bathroom in Italy. There was a map on the wall of northern Africa. And I saw this line, so I drew a line, little stop, city, stop. I had no names or nothing. So I looked at, it's about 40 miles. So I think we'll walk 40 miles that night. Yeah. So this guy picks us up. It turned out to be 80 miles to the first town.
Oh.
And then he won't let us out of the car. And that's where our plans changed.
Yeah.
Things became really adventurous. Instead of going north, the northern route along the coast, he turns dead south in the Sahara.
Oh, no.
We're going into an unknown land. We don't know where we are, where we're going. We're on this one road, this big soldier. He doesn't say a word to us. And he drives us all night, about 6 hours in that car with him. And there's no other cars. We pass 2 little specks of a village, just empty desert.
Oh, my God.
Finally, at dawn, maybe about 6, 7 in the morning, he stops the car outside of this one little village. So my brother's in the front seat, I'm in the back seat. He turns to us, starts gesturing. He wants to trade black market for our money. They love, especially American dollars.
Sure.
So it's like, well, we better. He's got a rifle. So we start haggling with him in the car. Yeah. We can't speak, so he'd give me like a 100 dinar bill. I'd give him like $20 bill and this bill, and he'd say, no, we take our money back. He'd take his money back. So we're in there like an hour, and we're trying to hold really tough. We got to make some money. So we're just haggling back and forth. Finally, he gets really angry. So he takes the money we have, gives us his money, opens the door, throws my brother's backpack out of the car, pushes my brothers out of the car, looks at me, points to get out of the car. Oh. So I hop out of the car with my brother. Yeah. He speeds away, disappears out into the desert. Now we're on the side of the road outside this little village in the morning. We have no idea where we are.
Oh, my God.
And my brother's like, man, that was a tough situation. Yeah, but we made a lot of money. When he was trading with us in the car, he gave us 200 dinar bills. He gave us one. I put it in my hand. I was holding it. I wasn't hiding it on my thigh in the back seat. He forgot about that money. Oh. So when he got angry, he gave us another 100 dinar bill, and then took our money. Oh, so we made quite a bit of money in that deal, which really helped us.
Yeah, no doubt.
But then we're worried about it. So find out we have his money, he's going to come back and shoot us.
Sure.
That's how we got double the money.
Wild.
So that kind of set us off through the Sahara. We didn't plan to go that route. We figured we'd gone 6, 7 hours that night. It'd be farther if we go back, so we'll keep going forward, reach a point of no return. And then we started hitchhiking. In the Sahara, there's like one little village, and then maybe 100 kilometers, empty, just desert. Another little village, maybe 120 kilometers, little village. Wow. And we just hitchhiked from village to village to village.
Crazy.
But it was an amazing experience because those little villages we'd hitchhike into, they had never seen Americans before, never seen foreigners. So we get out of the car, whatever, walk on the street, and we're just surrounded. 20, 30 people, kids, men, women I just didn't see. They're always covered, they're always in the shadows. Yeah. But they want to touch us, want to shake our hand.
Sure.
But it was just immediately acceptance. There's no hostility, no fear.
Yeah. Isn't that weird?
Yeah, it was. It was very weird.
Isn't that weird? We had that in Niger. Now it's in the news again because of the coup d'etat, but when we were there, Niger had just finished the civil war, and they'd been closed borders for 20-something years.
Yes.
And we were there like within 3 months or 4 months of the borders being open. And we were in Niamey, and we wanted to go to the Sahara. And someone had gone 2 months before that I met in Ghana and said, listen, don't go on a camel trek in Timbuktu in Mali, because in Niamey you can get up to Agadez and it'll be like $50. You can go for 2 weeks with all your food, everything.
Yeah.
I said, okay, well, same. I'm going on a few dollars a day. No problem. That's what we're doing. So my sister and I went up, but we got there late to the station, whatever, the parking lot. And they said, okay, well, we got to wait for the car to fill. We need 5 people.
Oh, right.
So there's 3 of you or 4 of you. We got to wait for one more. Sun was going down. Nobody showed up. Said, okay, we're not leaving tonight because we can't go after the sun goes down because the guerrillas will hijack the cars. So we only travel during the daylight. So I said, you have to find somewhere to sleep. And I was like, there's nowhere to sleep here. What do you mean? Anyways, we paid a couple of bucks, slept on the floor of some hut or something. And we went the next morning, and the drivers got saying 2 AK-47s, whatever. I said, what? Like, this is a little bit, how crazy is this? I said, well, we got to be prepared for
guerrillas
to shoot these guys. If they shoot us, we got to be ready to shoot back. And I was like, I don't know if this is the part that my buddy didn't tell me about or what. But then it was the same on a bus. We took a bus on the way back. There was a bus going, and these soldiers come on, 4 soldiers, 2 at the front, 2 at the back. And the guy didn't put his gun down for 6 hours. Sitting beside, he said he had to sit beside my sister, and I said, no, you're not going to sit beside, I'll sit beside my sister. Again, you don't know what's going to happen. You never know what's going on.
Yeah.
But they said, these guys will come out of the bush and just start shooting, and we got to be here on the outside and shooting. Your sister should be on the inside beside me, so I'll be able to protect. And I was like, I don't know what's that, dude. But anyways, the same thing. Like, we were up there on camels, no school, no calendars.
Yeah.
No markets, just nothing. Just survive on the land. And same thing, most of these people have never seen, because most of the guys going up would have done 4 or 5 days on camels, and we were going 2 weeks. Yeah. Because we wanted to get deep somewhere in there. And same thing, like, just people, it's like you're an alien on the moon or something.
It was. And they had really strange perceptions. So I had sometimes myself of America, because there might be somebody from their village. You went to another big city one time and saw a movie, or you saw one magazine sometime somewhere. Wow. So they thought, they'd ask me, the little kids come up, have you ever shot an Indian? An Indian fight. Yeah. They point to like bow and arrows. They assumed that America was still called by an Indian. Yeah. It was called old Western movies. Or I also had the perception of gangsters. Like every street corner, there's a gangster with a Tommy machine gun shooting. That's kind of shot by a gangster. It's getting that way.
You said you like to travel light, but as you're traveling through those tiny little towns, did you pick up any little trinkets or souvenirs or stuff along the way?
I've got a few things that I kept that were really important. Also, when I traveled behind the Iron Curtain, I went to Auschwitz, which is way before Auschwitz was ever open. It was in just the state it was when the Americans liberated it.
Oh my God.
So I went there to Auschwitz, and there was just nobody out there, and you got the feeling of the death and the circumstances, you know. And I remember they got the, whatever it's called, the gates of death, and the train would pull in. Everybody, one side was all women, one side was all men. And there was one little old guy who slept up on the top of that gates of death, a little place up there. He came down, he's shocked to see these Americans. Nobody comes out there. But he was very friendly, so he gave us a tour, and he walked us around the whole place. And at the very back of the camp, he took us to the death ovens, where the people were burned, killed. And what he told us is that when the train would pull up, you know, it was full of all the people on the train. And you got one side of the camp, there's women, one side is men. You got all the Nazi soldiers. They would have a camp choir, musicians would be on the around the train playing music to calm people. So when they got off the train, they didn't know what was going to happen to them. And the commander would just watch people come off the train and point. You go here, here, you go here. It was life or death. Yeah. You go here, you're fit, you can work for us. Yeah. Slave, no, you're going to death right now. Yeah. And those that were pointed for death, they'd take him to the back of the camp. It's a long walk, I remember, to get there to the death showers. And they told them they're getting to have a shower.
Yeah.
So they take off all their clothes, they put them in the room, and then the gas would come on. They kill them all.
Have you read Man's Search for Meaning?
No.
Viktor Frankl. Oh, it's a guy who survived Auschwitz, but he details all of that and like just the horrors of living in a camp, and it's wild. And it's just everyone has so little food that like you wouldn't want to share with a friend, because if you look emaciated, if you look like you're thinning out, you just you're looking a little weak today, Johnny.
Yeah.
And you get swipe left and you're toast, man. Wild.
Take us through the ending of the Saharan trip.
Okay.
How did it finish?
Well, what happened is we got through Tunisia, and I'll tell you one quick story in Tunisia on the bus. We took a few buses in Tunisia and we hitchhiked totally Algeria. Well, on the bus in Tunisia, it's all men. Like I said, always all men. We got the turbans, the robes, and my brother and I are on the bus. And this older man walked in the bus with this young woman who was covered with the shawls and sat down. There was like 30 other men, one man and a woman. Well, during the bus ride, it was very rough through the Sahara. Her shawl came down, so you could see her face. So she's a very beautiful woman. So I had a natural reaction. I just kind of smiled and waved. Oh, man, big mistake. Every man on the bus stopped talking. They looked at the woman, and then they looked at me with this pure anger.
Yeah.
And I could see them looking at me, and they're talking together, looking at me, and now I'm getting really nervous.
Yeah.
I just want to kind of hide. Well, I see them talking. Finally, the bus stops. There's no traffic out there, so it stops in the middle of the road. All the men get off the bus. I can see them through the front window having this big, angry argument. Finally, they storm back in the bus, sit down, the bus leaves, and nothing happened. Well, I found out later from a guy named Muhammad and Abbasi, who was sitting near us, we became friends with later. They told me when I waved at that girl, I disrespected her father. She was with her father. If I want to speak to a woman, I talk to her father, the father talks to the girl. I talk to her brother, the brother talks to the woman. Never speak directly, especially as a foreigner. So I defended their custom, every man on that bus. And he said they decided that it was just a matter of ignorance, not intent. So they didn't do anything.
Yeah.
But that whole trip through, I only spoke one word one time to one woman. Just never saw them. It was very, very, very traditional. But anyways, we got through Tunisia into Algeria, hitchhiked up Algeria all the way to northern Algeria. But to get through Algeria, we had to get through the Sub-Saharan War, which is a long-standing war between Morocco and Algeria. And the Polisario guerrillas control, there's only one highway that goes through Algeria, goes this way into Morocco, or it goes north to northern Algeria. We're on that one road heading into the war zone. So as we're hitchhiking across the Sahara in Algeria, the villages we're hitchhiking to, they start telling us, no, you must go back. Shooting, war, soldiers, guerrillas. No, nobody. You must go back. Well, we had reached a point of no return. We knew going back, no way we'd have enough money. We didn't think we'd have enough money going forward, but at least we had a chance. So we kept going. So finally, we reached one village through the Sahara, and we get in the village, and like usual, we're stared at, we're surrounded by people, and blah, blah, blah. So we decided to start hitching again. So we walk out of a little village into the road going out in the desert. We start hitchhiking. And an old truck pulls up. The guy, no, drives on. No. Nobody will give us a ride. So we walk back into the village. We find out that road leads directly to the Polisario guerrilla checkpoint. And no civilians allowed, especially a couple of Americans. So it's like, well, what are we going to do? So I'm with my brother on the street. It's like, we got no money. We're getting low. We'll bribe somebody. So we asked some of the men on the street around us, we'll pay somebody to take us through the guerrilla checkpoint. They finally understand us. One guy helped us. These two men come with us. We follow these two guys with the robes, and the turbans, to the back streets. We don't trust them. They take us a little alley, and there's this little cafe, kind of outdoor cafe. And there's this one guy sitting at the cafe. I call him Scarface in my book. He's got this beard. He's got this wicked-looking scar down the side of his neck and a turban on. And the two men walk over to him in kind of very hushed, kind of nervous tones, talk to this man. Then they walk back over to us and say, you, talk to him. And they leave. So now we're alone with Scarface in this back alley trying to get him to take us. So we start talking to him. Not talking, we writing notes and so forth. We finally agree we'll pay him $15, 1-5. I remember we're spending $6 a day for all our expenses. And also in Algeria, Western currency is worth a lot. So we'll pay him $15. He finally agrees after a lot of haggling. So I make him write on a paper, $1.5 So I always rip you off later. And then I take out my hand. I put in my hand, $1.5. I make him shake my hand with the $15. We got a deal. We can't renege on the deal. So we follow him to his big old truck.
Can always renege.
Oh, he did. He sure did.
Can always renege.
He nailed us later. So we follow him to his truck. In his truck, he's got this big tarp over the back of the truck, and there's another guy with him, his partner, riding partner. So we climb the front of the truck behind them, looking out the windshield, sitting up there, and he starts driving out into the desert. Now the roads are really bumpy and slow. As we're going through the desert, I'll tell one quick story. I had been eating goose during this trip. The only food we get was goose. And I love the taste of it, but it made me very sick. Oh. I had the runs all the time from the goose. So anyways, we're driving to the desert. I start passing gas as we're bumping through with the truck. The truck starts really smelling. So I see the two men talking together, looking at each other. They're getting kind of worried about the smell on the truck. So they start reaching into the vents, and they're talking. Finally, they stop the truck. They get out of the truck, they pull up the hood of the front hood, and they're looking under the engine, putting water, blah, blah, blah. They come back like, okay, we got that fixed. The whole time was just me with my smelling farts. So anyways, they drive us about another couple hours. Now we're out in the middle of the Sahara, don't know where we are. They pull off the road behind this big sand hill and go to the back of the truck, and he pulls the tarp off the truck, and there's military supplies in the back of the truck, boots and uniforms for the guerrillas. He pulls that up, puts us under the clothes and the boots, ties the tarp on top of it.
Puts you guys under it?
Underneath it. So now we're isolated in that back part of the truck. Can't hear anything, can't see anything, and we start moving. So we're sitting, I don't know how long it was, maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, we're just back there sweating it, Finally the truck stops. They're at the guerrilla checkpoint. Now it's do or die. We hear the door open, him come out. We can hear these voices of other men coming behind the truck, and they're talking in Arabic, blah, 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 blah. Don't know what they're saying. Finally, the door opens, the guy gets in the truck, closes the door, and the truck starts pulling out. So now we're just hoping we got past the checkpoint. That's the hustler driving the truck, not a soldier. And we sit back there for another couple hours, drive. Finally, the truck stops. They come back to the back of the truck, pull the tarp up, and it's Scarface and his buddy. And they got us to the checkpoint. They put us back in the truck, drive further. We drive through the desert a few more hours. Then we pull into a town. And remember, these towns are just all one-level building, clay building, nobody. And the town's empty. There's like just nobody on the streets. So that's kind of a little worrisome. Why did they flee? Is there a curfew or something? He stops the truck outside the town, and he says, okay. He's asking for the money. So I pull out the $15, give him $15. He takes the $15, puts it in his pocket and says, no, 50. Just, oh shit, 50.
Son of a bitch.
With his hand. We got to pay $50. So we're like, no, he's ripping us off. It's a blatant ripoff, which happens a lot. And but the way he defeated us, he just looks across the road, way in the back. We can see this long building. There's 3 soldiers with rifles.
Say hello to my little friends.
Exactly. Leaning against the wall. He said, there, give me the money or you go there. And we know we're not supposed to be in this area, across the border, across illegally. So we gave him the $50, got out of the truck, and then we started hitchhiking further north into Algeria. Got into a town called Oran to get ready to go into Morocco. But the next big challenge is we've been told the entire time
your semester starts in 1 week.
Yeah.
Hey, you forgot school starts.
Yeah, the border's closed between Morocco and Algeria is what we've been told. Nobody's allowed through. So we're hoping maybe with an American passport for some reason they'll let us in. So we get all the way up.
I like your optimism.
We had to have it, man. All the way up to Algeria to the border. Walk up to the border to exit Algeria. The same thing, you got the border post, the soldiers. We go in, they check everything, and they stamp us to leave Algeria. Now we got to get into Morocco. Will they let us into Morocco is the big question. We go up into the building. There's like 3 or 4 soldiers. These guys are kind of clean, not the dirty, bearded guys from the desert. And they're very official. And they start looking at our papers, looking at our passport. Then they ask us for our shot papers. We have to have certain shots to enter. And we'd gotten our shots.
Even back then?
Yeah, we had to. Before we left London, we got our shots. But my brother had lost a shot paper.
Oh, no.
He couldn't find it. So now it becomes a big problem. It starts getting real tense. They put us on this bench outside. They leave us there for a while. Then one of the custom officials and a soldier walk up and just take my brother. They force him to stand up. I start to stand up. They push me right down. Won't let me stand up. They take him away. So my brother's now gone. I'm sitting in this little border post in Morocco. It's enter Morocco. Don't know where my brother is. What's happening to him? Are they deporting him? Are they putting him in prison? And I just sit there sweating bullets for about an hour. Finally, the door opens. My brother comes back out with another soldier. And I'm like, John, what did they do with you? What happened? He said, they took me in another room and they gave me like 3 shots. I couldn't stop. them. And then they allowed us into Morocco.
Oh, wow.
And then we started hitchhiking across Morocco. And there, the atmosphere changed a lot. In Tunisia and Algeria, it was just open friendliness, kindness, automatically accepted. We're so foreign to them, but it's immediate acceptance. Morocco is more like, what do you need, Joe? You want some hash?
Yeah.
You want a woman? What do you need, Joe?
So at this point, you're up on the north coast?
Yeah, we're pretty close. Pretty close. We're in a city called Ojibwe, I think it is. It's close to the coast, and it's the first time we enter in Morocco. We get out of the car in the city, and we're immediately surrounded by 15, 20 hustlers, and they're aggressive. They're not like, oh, can I help you? What do you need? It's like, hey, Joe, you want some hash? You want a woman? Come.
It's like a beach in Thailand.
Yeah, much
You want a tattoo?
No. Pill?
You want
no.
a mango?
Woman? No. Blowjob? No.
So we just keep walking. We can't stop. If we stop, we get surrounded too much, and it's just too threatening. So we keep walking through the little town. Finally, we see some little room we think might be a bus station. So we leave the herd of men, go in this bus station, close the door. They're outside the door looking in at us. We asked the guy at this little bus station about a ticket to Tangiers. We need to ticket Tangiers. He's like, 3 hours. Wait 3 hours. Yeah. So we sit on that floor. We're afraid to go back outside with all the men waiting for us. We sit on the floor of that little bus station for 3 hours. That clerk is with us for 3 hours, standing right there. He knows we're waiting for that bus to pull in to leave. So finally, after 3 hours, buses are always late out in those places. The bus finally pulls in. We get up to go on the bus, and that same clerk stops us and says, no. Like, no, Tangiers. We go to Tangiers. Yeah. We need a ticket. No, sold out. No tickets.
Oh, you cock.
We sat there for 3 hours. He knew there were no seats. Never said a word.
Gutless.
So now we're stuck in this little train station or bus stations.
But is it like? I find sometimes in these countries, it's just like if you were from there, you would have waited there for 10 hours anyways, because that's what you got to do. No, like, is it intentional? I find like sometimes like, but you knew that. Why didn't you tell me? Well, because my people don't care. They'll just wait for 6 hours.
Yeah, it's like sometimes.
And I think, like, is that just my Western mentality? Like, you knew that. Why didn't you tell me that and tell me 6 hours or 12 hours? And I think sometimes it's not intentional. And it's just we don't understand that way of, I mean...
So did you just have to wait for the next bus? Or
no,
was it just like
stuck,
6 hours?
We're stuck at that little station. It's now nighttime, a little more dangerous for us. We have no way out of the town. We don't know if there's a bus or anything else. So we go back out in the street. They shut down that bus station. Yeah. And we start walking the street at night. It's very dark, and there's just a few lights and shadows. And there's a couple hustlers now, not so many out in the street. And these two guys approach us. So we start talking with them, gesturing. We want to get out of it. We want to go to Tangiers. And the one guy says, train. Yes, train. Tangiers. We don't believe him. There's a train in this town. We haven't seen a train for 4 weeks traveling through the Sahara. So anyways, we start following him through the streets at night. Don't trust him at all. And he walks us up in front of this big domed building. We start getting close to the building. We notice this huge sound, like a rumbling roar, coming from inside the building. So we're a little nervous. So finally he says, here, train here. So we say thank you. So we pull out some coins, pay him a little bit of money for helping us. And now we got to walk into this train station, which was like out of the Twilight Zone. We open the door to the train station to walk in, and there's hundreds of people. Men, women, children, old men, young guys, scattered around the walls of the building. It's about the size of an NHL hockey rink.
Pleasant sight?
No, huge room. Very noisy, all this chaos and music and children screaming. We walk in like 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. The noise starts going down. 5, 6, it becomes dead quiet.
Everyone turns and looks at you?
Everybody's looking at us. And they're not friendly.
Yeah.
And they're staring at us. And the ticket is way across the room. So we got to decide, we're going to walk further into the situation or leave and go out on the streets.
Yeah.
Well, if we leave and go on the streets, where do we go?
Yeah.
We know where to go. So we decide to continue walking. So we're walking. It's like the walk of death. Yeah. We're walking just slowly across the room. Everybody's staring at us. They're pulling their kids away from us, and staring at us. We walk across the room to the ticket counter. There's one guy at the counter, and he's leaning against the wall with his arms folded, leaning back, totally disdain for us, hostile. We say, ticket Tangiers. He turns away from us, doesn't even acknowledge us. We say again, ticket Tangiers. Now this tension is just building. Yeah. Everybody's staring at us. So we don't know what to do again. So while we're standing there for about maybe 5 minutes, it seemed like 5 weeks, two guys from out of the crowd walk over to the counter. There's this one tall, lanky guy. His name was Shankar. I still remember him. And this short little guy. The short little guy has got this big bloody patch on his eye. Oh, Jesus. He's got blood on his T-shirt.
Just had a Sanko So
they make this really odd couple, this tall, slim guy, this short guy with a bloody patch. Yeah. And they say in broken English, what do you need? We say, ticket Tangiers. So the tall guy, Shankar, tells the ticket guy, ticket Tangiers. He's not going to give a ticket. So then he shouts in a strong voice, ticket Tangiers. And finally, he walks over, writes us up a ticket, gives us a ticket for Tangiers.
Oh, wow.
So now we're with these two guys in this train station. We need somebody to have a little bit of protection. So we walk back with them to the group of young guys they're with. There's about a dozen guys. And they're just a real scraggly group. One guy's got a dagger, one guy's got some brass knuckles. They're just a tough-looking group, and some of them are really high. And so we sit down there waiting for the train to come in. Our only hope is stay with these guys. So we stay with them. So the train, of course, is late, but it finally pulls in. When it pulls into the station, I swear it's like a herd of cattle. Everybody gets up and starts running and pushing and fighting to get on the train. So we hop on the train, walk through the compartments. There's no seats in the train. There's just some dirty floors and some smeared windows.
Like one of those Indian trains, just lay on top?
Not there. Not Morocco.
No, you have to actually stand in. I've seen like in India, people just like stuck to the side.
That's what I was on. Yeah.
It was kind of like that. So we got in one compartment. We sat down on the floor. I sit down with my backpack underneath me to kind of protect a little bit so I can't take it. Now we got a 9-hour train ride.
Oh Jesus! Do you still got the gas?
Yeah, I still got the gas. So we sit on the train for 9 hours, and I couldn't stay awake, and I was really scared if I closed my eyes that somebody's going to hustle me, somebody's going to take my money, steal my backpack. Always. Something. Yeah. So I got it somehow to protect myself. So what I had a stretch cap back in Europe when we were in Switzerland. I had this winter stretch cap. So I pulled it out, pulled it down over my eyes. I could see through the cap, but they couldn't see my eyes. So I pulled that down. I leaned back against the wall. I closed my eyes for a short time to open my eyes. I see somebody walk. I just watch them. So now they know I can see through the cap. So every now and then I'd look and watch somebody walking by, and I try to sleep a short time and watch. So I did that for 9 hours. Oh. And one time I fell asleep for a short time. I wake up, and there's a guy like this, just coming closer and closer, almost about a foot away from my backpack, trying to steal my stuff. And I wake up, and he starts falls away. So we make it through the train ride. The two guys we met, Shankar and the other short guy, turned out to be really good guys. Sure. They never hustled us. They didn't try for anything. He sent me this long letter later when I got back to university, all in French. I had a French friend of mine, read it, translate it, and she said it was very elegant French. It's like my dearest friend Dennis, as I put my pen in hand, this is what my... I don't know if he wrote it, who wrote it, but it's an interesting...
ChatGPT.
From the story. So anyways, we took that train into Tangiers. Tangiers, now we're getting really desperate on money. We've known for a while we're not going to make it back with the money we have. We just kind of know it in the back of our mind. We don't really accept it. Finally get to Tangiers, we just don't have enough money. So we go out on the streets of Tangiers, we spend the whole day trying to get transportation back to England. Can we work on a ship? Can we take a train? Is there some kind of bus we could do work on the bus or something? Is there any airplane flight? We go to all these different little travel agencies and places. We don't have enough money for one ticket, let alone two tickets.
You never thought of hiding in the landing gear?
Well, almost. So we're on the streets of Tangiers. It's going to be nighttime. We got to get back. We can't spend any money. So it's like, what are we going to do? Well, we'll sell some of our goods. I got nothing. I got a bunch of dirty T-shirts and smelly socks on the street. So we're on the street with our backpacks. We're always surrounded by the street hustlers. They always call me Joe. Hey, Joe, what do you need, Joe? What do you need, Joe? What do you need, Joe? I don't know why. Maybe G.I. Joe. So I say, we need to sell some of our goods for cash. We need money. We'll sell something for cash. He's like, oh, yes, Joe, my friend. He has big shop. He'll buy. You sell.
Stinky American T-shirt, yes.
Yeah. So now we start following this guy through the streets of Tangiers at night, at 10, 11 o'clock at night, getting dark. And we follow him through the markets, through these little streets. He keeps saying more, further. So we keep following him. Finally, he makes this sharp turn off the road into this little side alley. And just like that, it's dark, it's quiet, it's very isolated. So we stop behind him, like, where are you going? We got to get some money. We want to trade some clothes. A little further. Come, Joe, come on. So we keep following this guy, which I never would do normally. It goes against every instinct I have for traveling. But we're just desperate. We got to get some money.
Sure.
So we keep following him through this alley, another maybe 300 meters, and there's this little lighted room on the side that has some clothes on the wall. Looks like maybe just a little clothing shop. He walks up here and he says, there, my friend's shop. He's Power Man. You must show respect. Power Man. I'm like, what's a Power Man? And he's getting really nervous.
You got to arm wrestle him for a T-shirt?
Yeah. So the hustler's getting real nervous, which is making me nervous. So we walk up this little shop, look in, and there's just one light bulb, one room about the size of a garage, some clothes on the wall, and I can't see anybody in the room. He walks to the back of the room. There's this big rug on the wall. He pulls the rug up, and there's this little low entrance into a secret back room. He pulls that rug up and points in here. So now my brother and I have to make another decision. Do we go in?
Yeah.
We've gone this far, so we just shrug. Yeah, we'll go in. So we go in this little back room. I sit down, my backpack under me. My brother's here next to me. Street house is here, and the door's over here. As soon as we sit down, some big Arab man walks in. He's dressed in Western clothes, very well dressed, gold chain, big guy. He stands right next to the little door, like a bodyguard or intimidation. Now we're really isolated, getting more and more worse. Situation's getting worse. So we're waiting there. We tell the street house, where's your friend? We want to trade for money. Trade. He says, just a moment. Finally, after like 10 minutes just sitting there with this tension on the floor, this man sweeps into the room. And he's a good-looking Arab man, about 35. He's got this trim beard, dark hair. He's got this beautiful full-length robe, some kind of animal skin with this cool-looking hood. He walks in. I'm shocked to see him. We're sitting on the floor. He's looking down at us. He starts walking in front of us, and he starts talking, but not really talking. He just starts ranting. I hate Americans. You do this, and this to my country. I want to kill Americans. I want to kill you. And he rants for like 5 or 10 minutes about Americans, how much he hates us, how much he wants to kill us. So we're completely taken aback. He goes on that rant for like 5-6 minutes. Then he stops, says, okay, you American, you have guns. Americans always have gun. You give me a gun, I'll give you big money. Where's your gun? Give me a gun. We're like, no, look, we got no gun. Sorry. So he gets angry about that. Then he kind of stops the rant, sits down cross-legged from us, in a very calm, composed voice says, okay, now we deal. What do you have? He grabs my backpack from out from under me, opens it, starts throwing out all my stuff. All I got is a bunch of dirty, smelling. He's like, look at this. This is crap. He looks at the big guy at the door. Look at this. This is terrible. Throws it around. Yeah. Then he throws the backpack back over to me. So I stuff my stuff back into the backpack. Now he's getting kind of angry. As he's sitting there on the floor across from us, he sees my high school jacket. I have my big jacket.
Oh, nice.
And the high school jacket. He noticed the high school jacket. So he pulls off my big jacket and takes my high school jacket off me. And he takes off his beautiful robe and puts on my beat-up, old, dirty high school jacket. He starts strutting around the room with my high school jacket on. Then he sparks some kind of order to the big guy at the door. The big guy leaves, comes back in. He's got this big mirror against the wall. The guy in charge walks over, looks at himself with my jacket, admiring himself. Then he sparks another order to the big guy. The big guy leaves, comes back, and he's got this beautiful full-length robe, similar to his robe, with this hood. And I'm thinking, man, that'd be worth a fortune back home. So he shows this. He says, I give you this robe for this jacket. It's a fair trade. I'm thinking, man, that's a great trade.
Yeah.
That's worth much more. But we need money. So we tell him that we got to get cash. Your friend said we get cash. So he gets really angry. I think nobody ever says no to him. So he throws my school jacket back at me, starts just kind of seething, sitting there seething. Then he starts looking at my hand. On my hand, I had my high school ring.
Oh, nice.
This is actually my brother's ring. He passed away recently. I had a ring similar to this, but except a big black stone. Not expensive, but everybody tried to steal it from me, buy it from me when I was traveling. He saw the ring. So he's like, oh, I like that. What is that? And it's English writing. What is that? I say, oh, this is my high school ring, special. He says, I like that. Give that to me. He grabs my hand. He tries to pull my ring off my hand. I keep my fist closed. I'm not going to give it up. My jacket I would have sold, but not my ring. Yeah. So I hold it close. We got this tug of war going on. And finally I say, okay, I give you good money. I give you money for ring. Give you money. Yeah. I say, no trade, no money. It's special. So he just gets really angry. So he stands up, storms back over the door, says something to the big guy at the door. I can't hear.
Chop his hand off.
Then walks back over to us. He leans down low. He's standing. We're sitting on the floor. Points his finger right in our face, and he hisses some kind of threat in Arabic. I don't know what he said, but whatever it was serious. So he makes this threat in Arabic, and then he storms out of the room. And so I look at my brother. We got to get out of here. Yeah. You know, we got no choice. We got to leave. So it's like,
take the rope with us.
1, 2, 3. 1 on 3, we both jump up, run out the room. The big guy at the door is surprised, doesn't stop us. We run out onto the alley, keep running through the alley, get on the main street, and we just keep running. Yeah. Where we're going. So we want to get as far away from him as we can.
Sure.
To Gibraltar.
In case he sends some of his guys up. And now we're back on the streets of Tangier. It's like 2 a.m. We're still no further closer to getting home. We can't really spend any money. So we walk around Tangiers just talking to people about getting back. We finally meet these 2 guys from Spain who are traveling in Tangiers. They tell us in Gibraltar there's a cheap flight from Gibraltar. You can take a ship from Tangiers to Gibraltar, take a cheap flight to London. It's like, okay, that's the first news we had of maybe something. So we run through the streets of Tangiers down to the shipyard. It's about 6 a.m. There's an early ship that's really cheap. There's a later ship that's very expensive. We got to get on that early ship. So we went up to this big building there for the tickets, and it's just masses of people. And they're fighting one wave of people fighting this way to get their passport stamped, another wave fighting over to this desk over here to get their ticket. So we got to get in the line, we push, get our passport stamped to exit Morocco, fight, get over, get our ticket just in time, run out onto the ship, get on the ship, and the ship is like a herd of cattle.
Sure.
There's no sitting space. It's everybody's squash standing around. Oh. And we started the ship ride from Tangiers to Gibraltar, and it's the roughest ship ride I've had, hands down by far.
Sure.
And it's just rocking, and then you see one person start getting sick. They run to the bathroom. Another person. Then finally somebody doesn't get to the bathroom, and they throw up.
Oh, no.
And it's like a chain reaction.
Sure.
Everybody's getting sick all over. So
it's like in Stand By Me. And then the smell hit the crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I eventually went down to a lower deck, found a little place I could kind of hide out and sleep. And the ship finally gets into Gibraltar. Now we don't know if there's a flight. We don't know the price of the flight. We start running through the streets of Gibraltar to try to find out about a flight. And Gibraltar's is English, English owned. So it's kind of Western. So it's like almost a reverse culture shock. People aren't staring at us. Yeah. We had all the stares.
Look at me.
I can understand they're speaking some English. Yeah. And we find a little travel agency. We run in the travel agency. We say, need a ticket today, Gibraltar to London. Yeah. This is before the computers. He opens his books, Oh, yes, there's a flight today at 2 o'clock. It's like 11 o'clock now. About 3 or 4 hours later is a flight. Yes. We're like, oh, great. But he says it's sold out. There's no seats. There's no seats for 5 days. Everything's booked up. It's a little airport. So we're like, oh, man. But there's a will, there's a way. So we can't sit here. Nothing's going to happen. We'll go out to the airport. See, we find out the airport. So we go out on the street, get this taxi driver, this British fella, nice guy. We tell him our situation, traveling across northern Africa. We got to get in the flight. He doesn't charge the thing for the fare.
Beautiful.
Takes us to the airport. We get to the airport, run into the airport with our backpack. We've got my beard, dirty clothes on. And we go up to the ticket counter. We ask about a flight or ticket to London. And the BA, the British airline guy, says, yeah, there's a flight, at 2 o'clock, which we kind of knew. But it's sold out. Like, oh man, can't we get a standby seat? He said, well, there's many people on standby, but I'll put you at the front of the list.
Beautiful.
If there's a no-show, I'll put you on the flight. So he said, oh, thank you. So he writes their name at the top. Now we got like 3 hours. But then we ask him, how much is the price? And we know we're going to be short. We didn't know we were going to be short. Yeah. But he tells us we have enough money for one ticket plus $11. Yeah. We can't buy 2 tickets. We buy 1 ticket and have $11. So that's our situation. We're in Gibraltar. I'm 19 years old. My brother's 21. We've been traveling, 40 days. So it's like, what do we do? And it's that same thing where there's a will, there's a way. You know, we got to get money. We got to get in the flight. We got to get in that flight. So we run across the airport to this little bank area. They had set up those private banks, you know. And we start talking to the woman there about, we must get in the flight. We got to get back. You know, blah, blah. I got a beard. I have a shave, long hair. And she's kind of getting scared of us. So finally she slams the bank closed right in her face. Yeah. She got intimidated. So we run back to the ticket counter. We're asking the guy there about the flight, you know, and he says, well, I don't know. We got to wait. Just stand here. I'll tell you if there's tickets. So we stand always in his eye view, always right their eye contact so they can't get away from us. Waiting. Finally, it's about 10 minutes before the flight's going to leave. They start calling people to board. Then he points to us, calls us over. He says, I have 2 tickets. I can give you guys the tickets. We're like, great, but we don't have money. So he's like, wow, I don't know. You got money for the ticket, you got a flight. So we're like, wow, what we do? We kind of beg him or talk to him. He says, I'm sorry, I can't. So now we got to decide who's going to take the flight.
Sure. We
have enough money for one flight and $11. So my brother, he has a return ticket from London to Detroit that expires like in a week. So he goes back to London, he can fly back to Detroit. So if he doesn't go back now, he'll lose the ticket. So he tells me that. So I'm like, man, okay, you take the money. So I give him all my money. So I've got $11. I get this old bottle of Coca-Cola, some stale bread. I'm 19 years old, and I'm in Gibraltar. And I got to get back to London. And at that time, Gibraltar and Spain, the border's closed. I can't exit Gibraltar to Spain. I got to get a ship back to Morocco, then another ship back to Spain, and then travel all of Spain, cross the channel, travel to. So it's like I'm at the airport, my brother goes away. I'm running to get up, catch the plane, get on the plane. So I'm alone at the airport with $11, and it's like, I got to get on that plane. I just know it. So I start going around the airport. I got this little quick spiel. My name's Dennis. I'm American, blah, blah, blah. I just traveled across Algeria, Tunisia. I need to get a ticket. I must get this plane. Can you give me, I don't know what it was, $95.
Oh, so you're it's not like $4 short of a ticket.
No,
you're
$11
like $100
is what I have.
Oh, I know, but how far away is that from the ticket?
It's like another
$80.
Yeah, another $90.
Oh, no.
Plus $11. So I'm not even close. So I start going around the airport asking people for just give me money. And it's like the party in the Red Sea. People are just moving away from me as fast as they can. I come up now. I think the flight's probably gone. It's too late. But I come up across this little guy with a mustache, and he's got an airline uniform on. His name was Stefan Valla. I'll never forget him. I tell him a little story. He's like, yeah, mate, I'll write you a check. They got to take a check because I work for the airline. It's going to bounce, but I'll get you on the plane. So we run across back to the same ticket counter, talk to the BA guy, the British Air guys, and the British Air guy said, no, I'm sorry, the flight's already on the runway. Yeah. It's too late. And Stefan says, you must give him a ticket. Nice. Give this young man a ticket. I'm buying the ticket. So the airline, the BA guy calls the airline, the pilot, and they stop the plane. Stefan gives him the check.
Nice.
Check. And then I run out to the airplane with the BA guy, and literally they had to stop the plane on the tarmac, pull out this big stair ladder, and put me on the plane. And I get on the plane just before it leaves.
Nice.
That's how I got back from that trip.
Beautiful.
The kindness of a stranger.
Wow.
I never forgot Stefan.
Hell of a journey.
And I sent him a little extra money.
And lots of kind strangers.
Absolutely.
When you're out on these kind of journeys.
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've encountered similar kind gestures, and we make it seem like pay it forward's a big deal back home, but all my travels all over the world, people have been paying it forward. And
same with me. Same with me.
Wow.
Sometimes the smallest gesture can have so much effect on you.
Absolutely. $100 from a guy who's
even like $5, or even like just giving you a ride, or
100 from a guy that's going to bounce.
Yeah.
So all of this is documented in the Traveling Man.
Yeah, Traveling Man across the Sahara and beyond. It's on Amazon.
If anybody wants the full story, we'll put the links in the post.
Yeah, the book reached number 51 Amazon bestsellers in my category. It was number 9 on BarnesandNoble.com in my category. And then it was selected by President Obama's advisory committee on disabilities to be made as a talking book for blind people. So they contacted me, and I submitted the book and gave me rights to it, or to produce it. Yeah. And they produced it about 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, no way.
So it's a talking book. I've been trying. I'd love to listen to it.
Yeah.
The guy who did the actual recordings contacted me, had some questions about some of the pronunciation of the places I went, but they would not give me a free copy. I have to be blind. have to be blind. If anybody knows a blind person, it's actually
Just start mashing the keypad.
Yeah.
Let me.
I think it's in every state library in the country now.
Oh, no
Available
way.
for
That's incredible
for blind people. So.
Congratulations! What an achievement.
Yeah, thanks.
That's awesome.
You published in 2014.
Yeah.
When did you start the process of writing? How did you decide that now's my time? Everyone asks me, when are you going to write a book? When are you going to?
Yeah.
And I think I'll write a few books maybe, but it's just not my time right now. I'm busy and too much going on.
Yeah.
What spurred you on to putting the trip on paper?
Good question. I was the same thing. I was asked all the time. I tell some of my stories occasionally. People say, "Oh, Dennis, you should write a book. Dennis, you should write a book." Finally, when I was here in Korea, I told some professors, Korean professors, I don't know how much they understand what I was saying, but when I finished, like, Dennis, you must write a book. So I finally thought, okay, I'll write a book. So just like clicked in my mind. So I went back home that night. I just started writing. And I made a commitment to myself. I'm not going to stop until I finish. Because I knew if I stopped, it would take me maybe another month. I'd stop writing.
Sure.
And, so I wrote every day, at least 1 hour, between 1 and 5 hours. I set up this little back table my wife set up for me to do my work quiet at the back of the apartment, to do my writing. And I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And I had a great journal, which really helped. To give me dates, places, and memories. Also, I sent some postcards. The only contact with my family, to my mother. She saved all those postcards.
Beautiful.
Which had some notes that kind of reminded me of other places. And so from those, I pieced together the story. And then I just picked one date. I didn't start the story in London when we met up, my brother and I. I started the story about halfway through the trip in Algeria at a Bedouin camp in the middle of the Sahara, lost, with no money, not sure what we're going to do.
Nice.
And I wake up in the morning at the Bedouin camp, which is true, all true. And I got a picture of this too. It's a little kind of shack, one little room in the middle of the empty Sahara. And this one guy who picked us up hitchhiking drove us there, and his friend let us stay. So I woke up not Christmas, but I woke up that morning with the sun coming in the Sahara, and that's where I started the book.
Nice.
I wake up that morning. Now I got to get to back to London. How am I going to do it?
Sure.
And I moved back to the first date, and I told the story.
Wow.
So,
Did you ever feel that, like when I go home and people always ask what all my crazy travels, and I feel like half the time people don't give a shit. It's like lip service. Oh,
Right.
how was Central America or Central Asia? Okay, you want to know? I got 50 hours of stories. You really want to know? No, they want 2 minutes and then talk about hockey or baseball or soccer. But the ones who do say, you should write a book, are like, really? Is my story really interesting? Like, I don't think there's that much to it. Do you ever feel like that? Like when they said that, or you said, yeah, I'm going to write it and I hope it's good, or I don't care what people think?
No, I thought it was an interesting story, and it's like I didn't create the story. It's just something I did.
Right.
So it's just from my memory. I don't think I'm creative enough to even think of the things that happen. But the story is kind of like a movie. Because we start out in London. We're supposed to have $700 a piece. I've got $170. He has $185. So we're starting out way behind the 8 ball.
Yeah.
Can we make this trip? And in the back of my mind, I knew we're not going to make it.
Yeah.
I just kind of knew we're not going to make it. We're not going to make it. So the whole time we're going across this trip, it's kind of like this deadline.
Yeah.
You got this deadline of this clock ticking
Yeah.
down to the final minute. And it does go down to the final minute, the final day
Yeah.
in that airport in Gibraltar.
Mustache,
$11 in my pocket.
Yeah.
Mustache guy. Good old stuff. And that's how we got back. It just kind
it's
of,
beautiful.
the tension kind of builds throughout the story.
Sure.
Why I thought it might be interesting for people. And then also, too, some of the culture aspects. Like I experienced Muslim culture at kind of the most basic, natural form. It was very traditional. Men I met, one guy had 6 wives. He had many, many children. The women were covered. They were kept in the kind of the shadows. That sense of hospitality. Of if somebody makes a request,
Sure.
you must fulfill it.
Yeah. Don't wave at daughters or wives.
Yeah, just be very respectful of the culture. And the people were just very, very kind in general.
Absolutely.
Made the trip so much easier, so much better.
How long did it take you to write it?
It took me about 15 months. And I wrote, like I said, almost every day. I wrote almost to the very end of the book. And I remember the point. I got to the point where I'm in Gibraltar, taking the taxi to the airport to get that last flight. And that point I stopped. I stopped writing. I told myself I would not. And I stopped for like about a month. And I came back, and then I finished the book quite quickly after that. But the thing that was difficult about the book is it took 15 months of writing, but I wrote like 500 20 pages. I edited it down to 350.
Yeah.
So after I wrote the whole book, I had to edit, and that was more difficult for me than
The second draft is brutal.
cutting down. What can I
No
cut?
chat GPT to
No.
shorten this by 200 words.
Yeah, true. It's amazing nowadays.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you did a lot of this travel before you were 21.
Yeah.
Now that you're a little bit older, do you still have that sense of adventure? Do you still seek the thrill and the adventure of traveling a lot, or have you slowed down a bit? Or
I've slowed down, but I still have that same sense of adventure. And when I came to Korea, I started living in Korea. I did some traveling. I took that one trip for like 120 days when I first got here, and traveled all through Asia, Tunisia, but Brunei, Indonesia, Hong Kong. But then I was living in Korea for a while, just to get some adventure. I started riding motorcycles. And a buddy of mine had a motorcycle, and I had a motorcycle back when I was in America. And he said he had a group of guys who rode almost every week. So I met up with him, and we'd meet in Kimhae and go from Kimhae all across the country.
Beautiful.
And I took probably at least 15, 20 major trips, overnight trips.
Oh, awesome.
We'd leave Kimhae, go up to Andong, go up to North Korea, go to Soraksan, Chilisan.
Sure.
And so that was kind of a way for me to get some of that adventure back.
Yeah.
Was riding the motorcycles. And,
I did a small trip up the east coast, and it's still a really good memory. It's the only trip I took with more than one person on a bike, and it was great.
Yeah,
you go in, make all the stops along the way.
Stop along the way, get some meat, and meet the local people, and camaraderie.
Does your wife or daughter share the same sense of adventure? Have you instilled that travel and adventure sense in your daughter? Or?
I would say somewhat. My daughter's quite adventurous. She's very competent. She can handle things, and my wife is quite adventurous, but she's a little more feminine, kind of more nervous about things.
Mine.
Yeah, just kind of in general. But she's been very supportive. My parents were always very supportive too. When I was young, like when I was 16, leaving for 2 months driving across the country, and then all this traffic. But they didn't know what I was doing. If they knew exactly what I was doing in a lot of these situations, I think they would have been much more worried about it.
But if that's part of it, isn't it? And I think part of it, the parents, you'd be worried. I'd be worried if my daughters went. I think having daughters is different.
Yeah.
If I had sons, I'd be a lot less worried.
Yeah, I think so too.
But part of it, there was internet when I went, 2003 to Africa, or 2002. But it was an email once a month, maybe, a phone call once every 6 weeks. But I think same if they knew what was really going on. I mean, my dad ended up coming to visit after, and he was a high up government guy in Canada, and I think it kind of shocked the shit out of him. And but that was like the light version. Again, it was miles and miles away from what he was used to doing, but. It was still bucket showers and cold water. But it was still the light version. We were doing much crazier stuff. But they don't want to know that stuff, right?
Yeah, my father had a good life. He was the FBI for many years. He did counterintelligence with the Soviets, and he used to tell me a lot of stories. And something he told me too is like sometimes, Dennis, when you do something, life is not safe. It's not always safe.
Sure.
If you try something new, do something different, it might be a little bit dangerous.
It's safe, it's boring.
Yeah, but you got to do it.
Developed countries have the illusion of safe, but there's danger in everything.
Sure.
Danger in everything.
So, if what remains on the bucket list? You've been to a lot of places. What is still out there?
I would like to go. I haven't been to Latin America, except for Mexico. I had some friends I went to school with, from Latin America. So I'd like to travel Latin America. I've done Europe. I've done quite a bit of Asia, Iron Curtain, a bit of Northern Africa, maybe also South Africa. I was in Northern Africa, but not the South.
Does your sense of travel change? I always say, I can travel more of what I've been to Western Europe, done a little bit, but my and I don't know if it's an unwise way to express it, but it's not changing. I like to see the places that are still kind of unchanged and raw without the development and stuff. And I can ride the Greyhound bus with a coffee when I'm 60 or 65 and, see this or see that. The Eiffel Tower didn't go, it's not going anywhere, So I think when I'm, now I'm still young and I still have that sense of adventure and the ruggedness for the squat toilets and some of the crazy shit. Do you feel like that? Like when I'm older, I'm going to just go to the resorts and relax or this and that? Or
kind of a mix. When I was younger, it was always adventure. It was just do it. I'm going to go do it, whatever it was, no matter what the cost was, how I was going to do it, or danger. Now I'm a little more careful what I do. And then having a wife, if I travel with her, it's just a different environment.
Yeah.
I'm single. It doesn't matter. I can sleep outside. I can sleep.
Do whatever you want. Yeah.
I can have loaf of bread. Will last me 5 weeks if I really need to.
Yeah.
Just met an awesome guy from Holland who had cycled to Uzbekistan. Mm-hmm. We met him in Uzbekistan, and my wife was just floored that this guy was riding a bike in sandals from the Netherlands all the way to Uzbekistan. He was going to continue on the Silk Road all the way to China.
Wow.
And then we met a family in a Hummer, a Russian guy in a Hummer, and it was sitting outside the mosque or the mausoleum where we were, and it's this great big yellow Hummer. And this is the weirdest thing to see in Uzbekistan. It's mostly older cars and a few Chevys. Mm-hmm. And he had a map on the back of all the places they've been.
Oh, wow.
And we said, let's hang out a little bit and see if this guy comes out. Maybe he's in here looking at the mausoleum too. And sure enough, 20, 30 minutes later, this guy came out. And then 2 kids came out. And I was like, holy shit, you're doing this with 2 young kids? And he'd been in this Hummer for 10 years.
10 years?
From Moscow. 46 countries or something, 10 years. And he said he's got 10 more years. And his wife...
with his family.
Yeah.
Wow.
And my wife was like, this isn't my style. I would never do this. And then I started talking to him. And he said his wife and kids go on the road with him for 2 months and go back to Moscow for 2 months. On the road for 2 months. So when his wife and kid are coming, he tries to make sure they're not in any place too crazy or too wild. Right. And then once they're gone, he does the crazy stuff. Yeah. But he's driven this... So imagine the attention, and I've had similar experiences in parts of Africa. But imagine driving a giant yellow Hummer in Bangladesh and these countries where they've never seen anything.
No.
He's on the news. He's in the newspapers. Now I'm on his Instagram there. He's famous just because he drives this giant yellow machine.
Sure. That's one way to do it.
And I thought, no one's hijacked you. No one's tried to get it. No one's...
Yeah.
You drive through a border with this shit? Yeah. And he's like, well, yeah, the craziest border crossing was Uzbekistan. He said, he was there 12, 13 hours.
At the border?
Yeah, and they said he made him empty every single item out of his truck, and they itemized everything he's got, and Uzbekistan's a little bit more strict government-controlled place. But just different ways of traveling, and it, I think I compromised on this trip to accommodate my wife and kids, and that's going to require more compromisation as we keep going. But my wife is also supportive and adventurous in that way that she would never ever do the things we've done without me. But I've also had to give up, eating a loaf of bread for a week. And funny you say that the Dutch guy was sitting there on the side of the thing by himself in the shade, long hair, big beard, with that big thing of Uzbek bread. It's 2 pounds. And it would last me a week. He's just sitting there nibbling on his bread. It's this guy's on $3 a day probably.
Yeah.
And
there's something romantic about that.
And went over and talked to him, and he's like, yeah, usually I eat 1 loaf of bread for a couple days and this and that. I was like, dude,
that's what I do.
Love it. Yeah. How old are you? That's how I used to travel.
Bread and Coca-Cola.
And my wife was like,
water, some bread and
she was so in awe and in admiration of this guy and what he's done, but doesn't want to do it. But I was like, Yobo, that's what I did, not on a bike. I was doing other wild stuff, but that's how I used to do it. And she's like, it's so amazing, but it's so crazy and it's so mysterious, but I don't want to try it. And so I just wonder as we age if we get into more kind of...
I'm a little bit more. I still love adventure. I used to love the feeling of just not knowing what was ahead of me. And that's why I didn't have maps most of the time. I didn't really know what was next, just the next town. Yeah. When I traveled across the Sahara, it was always the next town. Yeah. I never knew the name.
Wow.
I just got to get a bus to the next town.
I couldn't, That's totally out of crazy for our generation to think about.
Now there's so much information.
Oh my God. It's everywhere.
So much technology.
At your fingertips.
Where would be the place that doesn't have that? Where could you go that doesn't? I was just in
middle of the ocean.
North and east of Almaty, north and east of Almaty, and in Kyrgyzstan, up in Songkol. No electricity, no internet connection, nothing. I was completely disconnected for 4 or 5 days, in each of those places, and I was like, there's something cool about this.
Yeah, there's something.
They have a generator to turn on at night.
Yeah.
So I could charge my phone, so I could take pictures, but no connection, no. And same thing. Like I was like, we got to get out of here on Monday, dude. And he's like, well, we'll try and figure something out. And I was like, well, what are you gonna do? Like Morse code with the rocks through the villages back to the town? Like most people have a range. They stay 2 nights, and the driver stays and brings you out.
Yeah.
But we were staying 4 nights, and no driver is going to stay 4 nights. They go back 3-4 hours to the village, and he said, well, we'll try and make sure somebody's coming or going. Tell somebody that. But it's kind of that mystery of, are we going to get in? Are we going to get out? Are we going to make it to our next thing? Or but where do you think would be a place like that isn't as connected?
I don't know nowadays. The last place maybe it was like in Vietnam. When I went to Vietnam, it was just 35 years ago. They just opened, and there was just one little street in Hanoi where they had a couple hotels for foreigners, and that was kind of it. And then I remember when I was there, I wanted to take it to kind of discover the place, so I rented a little scooter, a little motorcycle. So I'd do is when I knew a place, I'd ride the motorcycle around in circles, around my hotel, bigger circles. Do kind of reconnaissance, recognize some landmarks. I kind of found this is before GPS or any of that, you know. So I took off for the day on the little scooter. I rode like 9-10 hours all through the city, out in the country. I remember I was at this one little stand having some little drink. And there's these 4 Vietnamese guys doing construction work across the street. This is back when I was in shape, you know. They came across the street. They wanted to arm wrestle me. Yeah. So I arm wrestled the 3 guys. And then I rode for the rest of the day, and I got back to go back to my hotel in the evening. Now it's getting kind of dark, and I'm a little bit nervous being American because there's still that stigma of the war, you know. Sure. I went to the War Museum, which is really horrific. Yes. And so I'm trying to find my hotel and get back to the area, and I'm going around and around on my scooter. I just can't find the hotel. I know I'm close. I recognize some landmarks, and there's thousands of scooters. There's no cars. It's all scooters and bicycles. And I'm going around, and I go around one turn, and there's this little Vietnamese soldier with a big rifle, the old uniform. He looks at me, tells me to come over to him. So now I got a split-second decision. Do I go to him, or I keep riding? Well, I think if I keep riding, he's probably got a walkie-talkie. There's other soldiers. Sure. They'll track me down. So I pull over to the side of the road, and there's all these people going around watching this drama with this foreigner. I sit on my bike. He's about 10 meters away. He's expecting me to get off my bike and walk over to him. There's no way I'm leaving that bike. Sure. That's the only security I have. Once I leave that security, I'm totally under his control. Yeah. So I sit on the bike, just sitting there, looking at him. He looks at me. He's getting angry. So he starts walking back over to me, and he speaks in this really harsh voice, broken English. You have violated the laws of Vietnam. You must come with me to my commander, now. He turns, starts walking away. He's expecting me to follow him. There's no way I'm leaving that bike. So I'm sitting on the bike. He walks about 4 or 5 steps, stops, turns around. I'm not following him. Now he's really angry. So he starts walking back over towards me. I got my hands on the bike. I've not turned it off. I'm not going to turn it off. I'm not going to get off it. And I always, like I said, I kept money for bribes. So I do is I have a little wad of money with like a $10 bill on the outside and like 5 or 6 $1 inside. Yeah. So I pulled it out. It looks like 20, big $10 bills, big money. It's really like $15, $15. So I had that in my pocket. I always have that safe, which thank God I had. So I'm on the bike here. He walks over to me. I put my hand in the pocket, pull out the money with the money sticking out of my hand. There's all these people watching, so I do it very quietly. Put my hand on the handle here like this, look at him, and I say, I'll pay you now. I'll pay the ticket now. I'll pay you. He doesn't say anything. He looks at me, looks away, and he casually puts his hand over top of my hand and takes the money out of my hand. Sure. And as soon as he takes that money, I fire up that bike. I say, okay, we're good. And I take off. Yeah. And I kept driving around. But thank God I had that money. Yeah. If I left that bike with him, I don't know where I'd end up. Good,
Now, most recently, you started a YouTube channel?
Yeah, YouTube channel.
What is the direction? What is the inspiration of that? And where's it going to go?
It's called Dennis. My name Dennis, the Traveling Man. Mm-hmm. It's on YouTube. Just type in Dennis, the Traveling Man. And the inspiration is I have all this experience. I do a lot of lecturings. And I do some, conferences sometimes speaking. And people often have a lot of questions of me. One big topic is always safety. How do you stay safe being 18, 19 years old, traveling around the world? And then other things, my experiences. So I thought I'd do a YouTube channel and just share some of my experiences for people, young people, or anybody, to maybe learn from what I did, my mistakes, what I did right. So I started the channel just a few weeks ago, put out one video, just kind of introducing myself, my background, what I've done. And now I'm going to have it like every week a different video.
Cool.
The first video I put out was for safety. One safety tip is called situational awareness, which is actually our American military's trained. Also the FBI, CIA. My father was FBI, and he was trained in that. He always told me when I was young, Dennis, always have good situational awareness.
Sure.
It's a very simple but effective idea. It just means you're always aware of your situation. Where are you? Who's around you? You identify any potential threat or danger. Well, these two guys over here, I got to be careful. You identify your exit points. If I walk into a hotel lobby, there's a door here, door here. If I go to the train station, my exit points. Also, you identify any safety. Where can you get help if you need help? Oh, there's this shop over here. There's this man here. And it just became a habit when I was traveling. Anywhere I go, I'm just evaluating the situation. It takes very little time. And then the key is when you're aware of a danger, and usually you're not sure if something's dangerous. You meet somebody, you go into a bus, you go into maybe a hotel, and you think that it's not safe. But you don't know. But you don't wait. The longer you wait, the more your danger increases. And then also you just got to take action, leave the situation. Leave that hotel room, walk away from that guy in the street.
Curiosity killed the cat. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And then you're good. No drama, no problem. And so that was my first safety tip, was situational awareness. And so I put that video. I'm going to put out more videos about just travel, safety, overcoming obstacles, kind of life lessons for people in general.
Who is the target audience?
Target primarily kind of younger people, maybe 20s, 30s, 40s.
Americans? Anyone?
Yeah, anyone.
Korean students?
Anyone. Koreans partially, but anybody can, I think, benefit from the information. And also, too, even like families, like five children. I teach my daughter situational awareness. Other one good habit is we talked about is your gut instinct. Follow your gut instinct. If you got an instinct, you got a feeling somebody's bad, this is a bad situation, don't wait, leave. Leave before something happens.
Situational awareness, I mean, super important, especially these days when you see people walking around. No one's even looking up.
All onto their phone.
Never mind checking exit points. Like, check fucking the person in front of you.
How many times on this trip my kids go, how do you know that? What do you mean? How? Well, you didn't see this when we came in? No. Even my wife. And she says, how do you know? I said, well, you didn't see the lady boy over there? How do you know? Well, for the more you do it, the more you see, the more you know. You didn't know this guy's trying. She doesn't like when I negotiate or haggle or whatever, and I'm like, because the guy over there is 19, he's trying to impress his dad or his uncle or whatever. He has to make sales. This guy's old, he's a hard bargainer, this, that. You got to be able to do this and that. How do you know that? Well, because it's just experience. The more you do it, the more you know. You got 60 vendors here, you can probably pick out which two will give you the best price.
He said there's levels to travel.
And she'd be upset that the guy said this, she's like, whatever, that's a good price. No. I walk over to him and I say, listen, $2 less. Here, I'll give you this for that. And he goes, sure. He's like, why didn't that guy want to argue or whatever? He's like, because he knows I know the price, I know what I'm doing.
I have the same
situation. Confidence, the fake confidence, right?
Same situation.
Hey, this isn't my first time at the market, but it is. I already found out the price from 3 other guys, or a rough estimate of the price. You might take me for 1% more, but not 10 or 200 or 2,000 like the French or the Italians that were there. And it takes some effort. It takes some time and some conscious effort to know. And lots of people just like floting through and not being aware of anything. Oblivious.
I see so many people. There's some people I traveled with. Before they GPS got their map out, they're pouring their money out, all this bottom money, they got their expensive rings, and they're walking, and there's all these bad guys are just focusing in on them, waiting for the opportunity, get them alone, and they have no sense of it. And the thing is, you can remove yourself from danger before it happens.
My wife had her earrings on, and I was like, take those off. I told you not to bring any jewelry. I'm going around like a hobo, and my wife's got earrings and a wedding ring on. I said, just take that stuff off. We're not bringing that, man.
I had a student who's going to New York, and she's like, do you have any advice? I said, just don't look like a tourist. Find out where you want to go and walk there like you know what you're doing. Don't take out the map and look around. And
what I tell my students too is, I said there'll be some situations where you're not going to be confident. You're not going to feel strong. You might be really scared. And I had that when I traveled a lot. Inside, I feel really uncomfortable.
Sure.
But you never show it.
Sure.
And the expression, fake it until you make it.
Yeah.
If you're not confident, you're not sure, act like you're confident. Act like you're sure. Stand like you're strong. And just fake it. And people will believe you. And later, you'll become confident.
I think about my early teaching career here when I'd go in and negotiate a contract. And like, I had no idea about anything. But we never taught a class. He's going like, yeah, no, this is how much we make. And it totally works. Yeah, absolutely.
Very much so.
All good times.
Oh, yeah. You got to fake the confidence all the time. I fake my Korean so much that Koreans think they're bad listeners, not I'm a bad speaker. And I'm like, you got TOEIC level 6 and you can speak fluently, but you're shy and you're hesitant and you're So they just say, you're wasting my time. Your Korean's not good enough.
I tell students about this guy. Like he just goes in.
I just speak 100 miles an hour and they go, oh shit, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
He's got 150 words that he can mix and mingle and just say them confidently. Wow, is Korean so good? Like, you sure?
Don't ask me a follow-up question.
It works though, man. You go in and a strong handshake and 안녕하세요. Wow, dude.
I just feel bad for the guy whose Korean's very good but has no confidence. And they talk like a mouse. And,
exactly.
And I'm like, well, I can trump you. Your Korean is 100 times better than mine, but you got no mojo. It's you got to have it. You got a wild resume here. I just maybe before we wrap up, I want to ask about this prison lecturer. It sounds interesting. I like that you said you took the job because it wasn't for money or you needed. I take a couple of those jobs here. So does Bri, that are just weird, interesting, cool, intriguing. So you take it to kind of learn and maybe grow as a person or get out of your comfort zone.
It's a challenge myself.
Max security prison lecturer. What does that entail?
It was in Michigan. It was Jackson State Prison, which is a big, old historic prison.
Situation awareness in the showers.
It was the biggest walled prison in the world. So I didn't even apply for the job. They heard from me from some speaking I did or something. They contacted me from the prison because the previous instructor didn't last. He left. And so this guy, his name was Delvin, contacted me. I went to his office, he talked to me, he said, we'd like to maybe hire you for teaching in the business classes to the prisoners. And I'm like, well, yeah. Is it safe? He said, well, sometimes. And then he said,
sign this waiver.
Yeah, exactly. And then he said, I remember telling me, which is kind of that fake it until you make it. He said, you just always show confidence and strength. Don't show aggression, but never show weakness. And he said, when you go to your class, you just always act confident and you act sure, but not aggressive. And he said, if you show weakness or hesitate,
crush you.
They'll walk all over you, and you're not going to last. So I said, okay, I'll take the job. So I started teaching there at night. And I remember the first time I went to the prison. Now, it's a big, intimidating, old, huge prison with a huge wall. So I got my little business suit. I'm about 31 or whatever, early 30s. And my briefcase to go teach. I have no idea what to expect. I've got this little pin alarm. You pull a pin, it has a siren. Get help. I took that out of my backpack or my briefcase. I walked down the corridor. They got the big iron gates. Open the gates. I walk into no man's land. They close the gates. There's 2 guards there. They search me. They put me through the metal detector. Give me my briefcase back. They say, okay, this man will take you to your class. So we walk through this big, huge prison, this hallway, maybe about 100 meters. We walk towards the end of the hallway. It's almost empty. And there's a big iron gate opening. So he's got the gate. Opens up the gate. And now it's open to this huge courtyard. There must be 300 prisoners milling about in the courtyard, Get them!
Fresh meat.
Exactly. He opens that gate, so I walk out. I assume he's going to walk with me to my class, escort me.
No way.
I walk out. He stays inside. He says, your class is over there, central cell blocks, across the courtyard.
Oh, my God.
And he points across this huge courtyard, and he slams the door. So I'm standing out in the courtyard by myself, first time I've been in the prison, with my little suit and my briefcase. I've got to walk 200 meters across the courtyard to the cell block. So I walk across there. It's all these big guys, and shoulder to shoulder. I walk back there, and there's this female guard, and she's really nervous and scared. which makes me feel nervous and scared. And she's like, oh, here, I'm just giving my name and so forth. She checks my name. Okay, you're on the 3rd floor, your class 3rd floor. She opens the gate for the back cell block, slams it closed. She says, go up that stairway, 3rd floor. So I'm like, okay, is a guard going to come with me? Escort me?
No.
No, go there. So I walk up the stairway, 3 floors, tight little stairway. Later, I found out from my prisoners, it's one of the most dangerous places in the prison because you're shoulder to shoulder, locked in with a group of men. They come up behind you with their knife or whatever they got, their shank, and slit your throat. And you're on the ground dying, and they walk away, and just nobody knows what happened.
Yeah.
And they said it happens all the time. I didn't know it at the time, thank God.
Yeah.
So I walk up this 3 stairway, get to the 3rd floor, and I'm looking for the guard. Where's the guard going to, help me out? I walk in this old room floor, in this big old floor. I walk to the end of the floor, and there's these 2 trustees, prisoners who handle things. They say, here's your class list. Your room is over here, this room. So I'm like, okay, where's the guard? They say on the 1st floor, that woman. That's the only guard out there. So now I'm like, wow, okay. So I walk into the classroom. It's a big old room, and set up my stuff and got my book there and the desk, and the prisoners start coming in. There's about 20, 25 guys. There's a lot of mix of guys, mix of races, a lot of big guys working all the time. They come in and the class starts, and I start teaching. I'm talking. I start getting a little bit comfortable. Okay, it's not so bad. I think I can do this. And I'm teaching. Well, after about 20 minutes in the class, this one big dude, big black guy, he just stands up from his desk, walks across the room. He makes a point of bumping my shoulder as he walks past the room, and he leaves the room. So I'm kind of shocked. What was that? But I remember what Delvin told me. Don't show fear. You must stand up. You must, show strength. So I just get myself kind of composed. He comes back to enter the room.
Punch him right in the face.
Close. As soon as he walks up to the door, I walk right up to him. He's much taller than me, so I'm looking up at him. I just say in a strong voice, not too aggressive, but a strong voice, don't ever leave my classroom again. If you leave my classroom, you're never coming back in.
Yeah.
Just ask, and it's no problem. He looks at me, kind of shrugs, goes, okay, boss, I got you.
Yeah.
And he walked in. I had
Just
no problem.
testing you.
Yeah, no problem with him.
Oh, cool.
But it was an interesting experience. There's such... some of those guys were very charming, very friendly. I'd forget I was in prison, forget who they were. Yeah. Some were just guys you just would never want to be alone with.
Sure.
Never, should never be back in society.
Wow.
There was these 2 guys, remember, a little bit older guys in my class I had a couple of times. One was Hispanic, one was American, white American. And they're both just really kind of humorous guys, always kind of quick-witted and joking, and they liked me as a teacher. They've been in a couple of my classes, so I'm getting kind of friendly with them. I'm thinking they're more of as friends. I forget I'm in the prison sometimes. So at the end of one of the classes, that they never talked about what they did to get in there. At one of the classes, I had some downtime, so I'm in the classroom waiting, and they're kind of talking back and forth. And the one guy asked the Hispanic guy, hey, Max, why are you in here? You're so articulate. Why are you in here? And he started talking about what he did. He'd got involved in huge drug deals. He worked for some kind of agency that did touring trips and got caught with millions of dollars of drugs. And then the other guy, this white guy's got this pockmarked face with this greasy hair, funny guy. But they asked him, hey, man, what are you in here for? And there's just a complete change. This friendly, happy face just goes, killed that motherfucker. I killed his son. I would have killed his daughter. If I get back out here, I'm going to kill her too. And he's talking about a police officer, police chief, that I guess arrested him or did something. It was kind of a famous case. I didn't know about it at the time.
He'd be a hero in jail, wouldn't he?
But he went back and killed into his house, held a big standoff for hours, ended up killing, I think, the chief and the daughter.
Wow.
The son got out. But I hear these things that these guys did.
Yeah.
And I'd sometimes just be shocked because they come across as kind
normal
of
dudes,
friendly, humorous kind of guys, and they talk about different experiences. You see a whole other person come out.
Wild.
But it was a different world.
No doubt.
There was one guy that got paroled, I'll say real quick, that was in the prison. He was a famous killer, serial killer in Michigan. And he had been arrested for killing, I don't know how many people, women, and he was in prison for a long sentence. Well, he got paroled somehow. So he was paroled from Jack State Prison. He left prison, and within 3 days, he was stopped by the police driving a car, because the light was out, and there's 2 dead women in the back of his car.
Oh my God.
So they're bringing him back into Jackson State Prison just a week later.
Oh my God.
All my prisoners were talking about him. They told me, Dennis, he's dead. As soon as he enters the population, he's dead. We're going to kill him.
Wow.
We're all getting denied parole because of what happened to him.
Yeah.
Now all the parole boards, under all this pressure, they're not giving any parole.
Wow.
So all these guys are pissed off. They got parole coming up in this killing. So they had to keep him in the middle of the prison. There was a separate block, cell block, that was just locked down. And I see these guys walking through the prison, their legs, their arms chained, guard with them. They're in the cell 23 hours a day. They're total isolation.
Wow.
They're just complete predators.
Insane.
But it was interesting for me because there were so many different guys in there. And there's some of the big guys that work out all the time. They're tough and they're just angry and you're scared to death of them. And there's some little guys, scrimpy little guys. And then there's some older guy. There's one older guy, looked like Santa Claus, except a skinny Santa Claus. But I found out he had massacred his family like 40 years before. And he's from a little town up in northern part of Michigan.
Wow.
And so just a variety of people. The most scary guy I saw in prison wasn't a big, tough-looking gangster guy. Was a short little white guy with a scraggly hair. And he came in my class one time, and I just saw him and made eye contact. And as soon as I made eye contact, I didn't want to be near him. This guy is stone cold dangerous. Yeah. There's nothing in those eyes. So I made a point of it. I'm never near him. If he's in the classroom, I'm on the other side of the classroom. Sure. If I happen to see him in the hallway, I stop walking the hallway, I go somewhere else. Yeah. And so I was always aware of this guy. Anyways, I've been teaching now for quite a while at the prison there, a few different programs. And I walk into my classroom one time to start class, just a little bit early. So I open the door, I don't see him in the room. I walk in, behind the door, he's sitting in a desk, him alone. Oh, jeez. And he looks over at me, and I make eye contact again. And he's got that vicious, malignant grin looking at me. So I know I can't walk out. I can't show fear. So I just walk into the classroom as far away from him as I can, go to my desk. I don't look at him. I got my back to him. He's waiting across the room. I just keep busy with papers on my desk, shuffling, hoping somebody's to come in the room. Then I walk over to the chalkboard, take out an eraser just to keep busy, and start erasing the chalkboard on the board. Well, so I get to the other end of the classroom, or the room, not classroom, the room. On the board is that sign of Satan. Pentagon. In fingerprint. It wasn't there when I came in the room. When I walked into that room, was doing the shuffling, not looking at it, he must have got up and put that on the board. Jeez, it was a message or whatever. So I see that on the board, I'm just like, whoa. So I just erase it.
Mysterious fella.
I resigned today.
Yeah. I'll tell you why I resigned. I want to hear it real quick. Yeah. My father asked me to. I've been teaching there for a couple of years, and I'd hear these stories, and there's just some tremendous violence. There's also some just really interesting guys who are trying to better themselves. But what happened was there was a coordinated hit. I heard of a lot of different hits while I was teaching. But there was a coordinated hit on 3 administrative staff and 1 of the instructors. The same time, the same day, almost the same hour. And they did the shanking, and the prisoners were caught on the top of the roof, I guess, of the prison, throwing bloody clothes off the roof. Well, somehow that news got out of the prison, because most of the things I heard about in prison never reached the media. Yeah. Well, there was a news story, 4 people attacked at Jackson State Prison today, 3 dead, 1 in emergency care. My dad saw that. He called me up and said, Dennis, you got to stop. Please stop.
So now you're currently located in Busan, working at a university.
Yes.
What else do you have on the go?
Well, I teach lecture classes, English classes, composition, speaking classes to university students. I also work with what's a special program for students going on internships overseas to America, Vietnam, Japan. I teach that program, work in that program, which I really enjoy. I also do some consulting here. I've given a lot of training seminars to Korean professors, teaching English. Also some business seminars. I used to give those to the business departments and classes as well. And now I have my book, Traveling Man Across the Sahara and Beyond. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble. It's worldwide, basically. And then also I just started a YouTube channel, Traveling Man Dennis, the Traveling Man Dennis, with putting out videos showing kind of life lessons, sharing some of my experience from business and other things and travel.
Awesome. Lots to share? Lots of experience, sure?
Yeah, a lot of experience, and when I was young, I had a few people that kind of helped me out. Like when I started a business when I was early, after I worked in Capitol Hill. I worked in Capitol Hill for a few years. I was legislative correspondent for a U.S. congressman, which was very competitive to get the job. I did an internship first. I was working like 40, 50 hours a week, making about $25 a week. I did that for a few months. From that, I got a full-time position as a legislative correspondent for a congressman. The congressman I worked for was a real good guy. He was on the Armed Services Committee. So we had a lot of dealings with the U.S. military, with the CIA, the Pentagon, the White House. So I had a very high security clearance. And I had to get clearance to get the job. And then later, I was doing a good job for the congressman. So the chief of staff talked to me. He said, Dennis, I want to reward you. I'm going to send you on a trip to a NORAD command center.
Cool.
Which I think is in Cheyenne, Jackson. It's built into a mountain.
Oh, I've seen that before.
Incredible technology.
Yeah.
And it's built on springs. So they said when they built it, it could almost absorb a direct hit from a nuclear weapon.
That's like I've seen that from, there's like a Discovery Channel documentary. I've seen that before. It's wild.
Wow. It monitors every airspace of Canada and America, anything in and out. He said, I'm going to send you there. I want to send you there for like a 4-day trip for the congressman, part of the Armed Service Committee. But you might have a problem getting the security clearance. You've done too much traveling and everything. So he said, just wait. So I waited about another month or so, in 6 weeks, and he came back to me and said, Dennis, I'm not sending to NORAD Command Center, but I'm going to send you on a tour of U.S. military bases, Fort Benning, Fort Knox, Fort Pendleton, as part of the Armed Service Committee staff, which is like powerful. If you're on the Armed Service Committee staff, all the money for the U.S. military comes out of that committee.
Wow.
So me and about 5 or 6 or 7 other staff members were flown out of Andrews Air Force Base, flown to the military base. The general of the base would come out, I'm like 25 years old, meet us, take us into a private briefing room, tell us everything they're doing, what they need, their needs for military, what their plans and strategies are. Then they take us to their training facilities. So I shot the M16.
Oh, wow.
I trained with the 181st Airborne Division, where they trained. They had these stilts set up where they would fake parachute. You jump off and you have to land, hit, make your points of contact. So I trained with them. Drove the M1 tank, which was kind of cool. It's almost like a motorcycle. Inside, it's like steering like a motorcycle.
Oh, no way.
And drove the M1 tank, and then they showed us displays of the tank's capabilities. And during that time, I went to 3 different military bases, big military bases. And at that time, they're having military games going on. So it's one part of the country were actually fighting a fake war. So I'd meet one general, take me into their barracks or whatever, and tell me their strategies, what they're doing. And then they fly us by Black Hawk helicopter into the war zone, fake war zone, to actually witness what's going on. And I remember during that tour, that trip, I had to write a report for the Armed Service Committee when I got back. They kept talking about this technology that would really help them pinpoint their weapons. They said we could send a missile, we could send a tank, shell to an exact location. And I'm pretty sure it was GPS. It was prior to GPS becoming such a thing. But I remember them talking about that so much that was the main thing they were kind of lobbying for.
Wow.
And so it was an interesting job.
Absolutely.
He also, the congressman I worked for, also put me in charge of his advisory committee on foreign policy. So I'm this young 26-year-old guy. And his advisory committee was made up of some of the top people in America on foreign policy. We had Paul Nitsky, was the chief arms negotiator with the Soviet Union for the assault nuclear weapons for years, was on the committee. The chief officer for civil defense in America, CIA liaison officer. And I would set the meeting. He'd tell me what he wanted. I'd write the agenda. I'd contact all these people directly. And then we'd have the meeting at some private location.
Oh, wow.
You know James Michener?
No.
The writer.
Sounds familiar, yeah.
Was a very famous writer. He was in our district. One time we had a meeting at his home. Big place. But anyways, I'd go to those meetings, and I was just this young guy there, but listening to all these worldwide experts, and their opinions and in private. And I'd write a report up to the congressman when the meeting was finished.
Wow.
It was just a really interesting experience.
Sure.
At a young age.
Dude, you've done it all. You've done it all.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
What is in the future? Do you plan on staying in Korea for a while or retiring here? Or
Yeah, I got to retire. I have no choice pretty soon. So I'm not exactly sure. I'd like to probably move back to America when I finish my work. And I'm not.
You don't want to play Paduk and drink makgeolli? Yeah,
I got to make some money. I was really sick for a long time. I didn't work for over a year, and then hospital bills were just huge. A home that I bought in Michigan saved us. We had that home. So when I left the hospital, I hadn't worked, in a year, and I had all these debts, personal loans, bank loans, the hospital bills. We sold that house, and that basically cleared everything for us, but it wiped out years and years of savings.
Yeah. What about insurance? How did that, like, in Korea, the insurance is really different than insurance back home. I don't know if you know the Silby insurance. Is like, if you have Silby Boom, that covers kind of like everything. If you have basic insurance, you're only covered for like bare bones stuff. But if you have anything serious and you don't have that Silby insurance, you gotta pay.
The insurance helped us a lot.
Lots?
It was a lot of money, but we also had so much we had to pay. And the thing was, we had to pay as we went. Which my wife had to come up. Okay, we need $12,000 on Tuesday for the stem cell transfer. Right. Okay, the next week, we got the MRI. That's another $1,500. Okay, the BioClean room that I went into was $2,000 a day for 26 days.
Yeah.
Insurance pays zero for that. No insurance pays for that. So we had to come up with $50,000 by this date. So as I'm sick, my wife was handling most of this for most of the time.
Sure.
But I owe her a great debt. She was just wonderful.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, she was amazing.
Nancy to the rescue, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
So you envision being here a few years and then heading home to retire?
Yeah, and then maybe head home. Yeah.
Cool.
So.
Well, Dennis, I'd like to have you back again. I would love to sit down and chat. I think we can go for another couple of hours.
I like to. I enjoyed it very much.
Very nice. Good interview. Yes, we got some lunch to eat.
Okay.
That cool? That sounds good. Anyways, everyone, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.